Hello, YouTube. Good to see you again. Apologies for disappearing. I've been working hard on the Twitch side of things, but on the YouTube side of things, good news, I'll be uploading a lot more in 2025. Plan at the moment going ahead for this channel is to bring in live gameplay VODs, so full playthroughs from Twitch coming here to this channel, maybe edited into a highlight series so it's a little bit easier to digest. If you don't want to watch the full thing, you let me know. Also, game reviews. I'd like to start doing game reviews on this channel. Hopefully that picks up. We'll see how I can do with that. And multi-streaming. We'll be bringing the Twitch broadcast to YouTube as well. The exact same broadcast, but on this website. This is my 2024 played games tier list. Now, that's not necessarily games that came out in 2024. It's just games that I played for the first time or played properly for the first time in 2024. A small itty-bitty PSA going into this video that there might be a few minor spoilers for some of the games in this list. I tried to edit out as many as I can, but there might be a few very, very small spoilers. So if you're sensitive to that, just keep that in mind. If your game pops up on the list, maybe just move ahead. I'll do a chapter of each game. And lastly, if you stay subscribed through 2024, thank you so much for staying subscribed. Mwah, appreciate it. And if you just joined us for the first time, feel free to come on in because we've got plenty of content coming up on this channel very, very soon. So click the subscribe button, click the notifications, whatever the YouTube thing is, and enjoy. All right, let's start it off. Dredge. Dredge is like my Dave the Diver. So Dave the Diver last year was the game that arrived at a certain time where I felt like I really, really needed it. And it's just like a relaxing game. It's a switch your brain off and just do menial kind of task game, like mechanically. It has the big benefit of being a Lovecraftian game. I'm a sucker for Lovecraftian horror. I'm gonna put it in B tier. And I might move it. And the reason why it's in B tier and not A tier is because it's really, really easy. You kind of can't fail. As long as you keep playing the game, you're going to finish the game. It's fun, but not as fun as Dave the Diver was mechanically. It's basically an inventory simulator. You're playing Tetris with your inventory. You get bigger inventory, you get better items, and you do upgrade, and there is a sense of progression, which is wonderful, and I love that. I mean, there's kind of a failure state, but there's not really like a real failure state. You can't really fail. You can't really lose. You can get bad ending and good ending. So I'm gonna leave Dredge in B for now. And let's talk about Subnautica. Subnautica is absolutely not my kind of game. I don't like these kind of games. The go out and collect a thing to build a thing to make a bigger thing to collect more things to collect another thing to get a bigger thing to make more things to make a bigger thing to make more things to make a bigger thing. This game actually really pissed me off. And it was really unfortunate. I felt betrayed when we finally got to go into the giant crashed ship to look for things. I'm like, oh, sick! This is going to be great. A new environment. You know, there's already some nice biomes in the ocean. We did like a little bit of island stuff. I remember before going to the major crash ship, but they had to go to the crash ship to go repair some parts and recover some technology. And there were invisible walls and glitchy, bugged out surfaces and shit like a motherfucker. And it felt like a broken, unfinished game when I got to that area. Straight up. I'm like, and I felt like it was really strong in the ocean, but when you get to like the crashed spaceship, which I was really looking forward to, it's only because I was really looking forward to getting in there and having a look around that it was just so disappointing when I got in there. And then I stopped streaming Subnautica and never played it again shortly after I left the spaceship because it was like, chat was like, oh, you get some Ripley mech suit in there, and then after that, you're, you know, the game is really fun. And no, it's not for me. It was fun at the beginning when I was first exploring, and then after it like started to increase in complexity and I had to collect more things and it felt like busy work, I got sick of it. So Subnautica D tier. Okay, and again, just to finish up on Subnautica, I can see what's cool about this game, and I'm sorry that I didn't get to go into the horror area. Apparently, there were areas that were really horrific. It's unfortunate because D is the bottom. I wouldn't put it in E or F tier. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not that bad. It's just not my game. Subnautica relies on exploration. In that regard, it does it well. 100% agree. Very, very good for exploration. I liked the exploration of Subnautica, and it definitely got more interesting when you could move faster, like when you make your little submarines. And you just had to keep them powered up, and you could basically have oxygen and you know, get into some deep areas and that sort of thing. I like that it has like an objective. Like, I really need games to have an objective. If it's just a perpetual sandbox with no ending, like say a Space Engineers or something like that, I need a win condition, and I need a failure condition. Failure is also important. Helldivers 2! Helldivers 2 was the first game I played when I got back from my international trip when I went to Egypt for a few weeks and I came back. Helldivers 2 was popping off, and my mate was like, you should install this. I'm playing it with some guys tonight. And I'm like, well, I'm home alone. Why not? So I stayed up quite a few nights in a row playing Helldivers 2 with everybody. I bet this is D. No! Helldivers 2 is a horde shooter, which is a type of game that I generally don't enjoy. The very repetitive fight waves of enemies and do the exact same objective over and over and over again for thousands of hours. And I know that that's ironic coming from a guy that has replayed Doom Eternal more than most people in this chat combined. But the thing that makes Helldivers 2 special is that how the guns feel and how it feels to play the game feel incredible. This is one of the best feeling games with weapons that I have ever played, and I don't say that lightly. Like it's a third-person action game with a decent camera as well. The camera isn't inside the asshole of your diver, your Helldiver. You can see around your character in third person, which I greatly appreciate. Curious to know which game on this list got the least playtime and which one got the most. That's a really good question. I can let you know. So these games are all in the 20 hours or less. Dredge, I played 18 hours. Okay, so Dredge didn't quite make it either. So Helldivers 2, the guns feel amazing. It feels amazing when you're in those big like Act 3 apexes where the hordes are really coming in strong. You know, orbital bombardments, and they're shouting about Super Earth and all that sort of shit. Like it is so fun in that regard. But when the adrenaline leaves your system and you're back in your spaceship, and you look at your list of things and you're like, oh my God, I need to do this another 500 times. I like this game, but I don't like it that much. If this game was like the most fun thing ever, I probably would do that. That's why I've played Doom Eternal and Doom 2016 and Proteus and those games that I've like done speed runs and challenge runs in, Lies of P, Dark Souls. Like the reason why I've played those games over and over and over and over and over again and done the same thing over and over and over again is because I enjoy them so much that they get me over that line into wanting to find excuses to play them more. Helldivers already has the excuses to play it more. It has a grind to it where you have to get these macro resources to increase your arsenal to get different loadouts and that kind of thing. But I really found that in Helldivers 2, I found a loadout that I liked, and when I unlocked more stuff, I didn't find any of it more interesting than what I already had, and it didn't force me to switch. I would try everything out, but it didn't force me to switch. I was like, I already like what I'm using. But again, I played that game less than 20 hours. I did not get very far. Maybe there's something up there that makes me go, oh, like I see video game Jesus, and all of a sudden it's the greatest thing of all time. But it didn't happen for me, and maybe that's my fault because I didn't give it enough time. But that's my thoughts on Helldivers 2. I think it's a very strong, it's my favorite horde shooter, put above Dredge. It's my favorite horde shooter that I've played so far, but is not my kind of game again, and is also, I felt like, and again, I also played this back in March this year, and I haven't played it since. I know there's been a lot of content since then, but March this year, there was not that much content for this. There was bugs, there was robots, and there were like 4 or 5 different missions. And I didn't want to do the same 4 or 5 missions 600 times to get the new weapon or the, you know, to get 5% better, whatever. You know, some passive, boring thing. I wasn't interested in that. Monster Hunter World. Remember how I was talking about grinding? Remember how I was talking about grinding and how if a game is really, really, really enjoyable, that I don't mind grinding, that I don't mind that sense of progression? Monster Hunter World, I technically played it back in 2018, but I didn't play it very much. I only played it for a little bit because the camera was very tight, and the game didn't run very well. So I didn't play Monster Hunter World for more than like an hour or so. So technically I've already played this one, but I didn't feel like I really played it until this year. I installed a camera mod that made the, you know, the FOV a lot more nice for me, and a lot more nice, Maynarde the wordsmith. Did you know they used to pay me to speak? Basically what I did was increase the FOV a little bit and installed a fan-made patch that basically made the game run 50% better. Monster Hunter World is actually going to be my first S tier, and that is because this game really fun for me as a player, and I played this completely solo the whole time. I did not do any co-op whatsoever, solo the whole time, which is also something that annoyed me about Helldivers, was that I needed a team, and also there's a shitload of friendly fire, and these guys fucking, yeah, like I died to my teammates more than any enemies in this game, and it was funny, and I would laugh because they were my friends. This game I played solo the whole way through. I got all the way to the end. I did not, I guess I technically didn't finish this game because I never killed Alatreon. Or Alatreon. I never killed that guy. Like, when the grind in this started to feel like the grind in this, where it's like, I need to go in here and do the same quest over and over and over again to try and potentially get a 0.1% drop gem so that I have a chance against late game things. That's when I fell off this game. But until I was forced to grind for gems, this game was a complete blast for hundreds of hours. Like, I just loved going from monster to monster, tier to tier. The story was garbage, but I don't care about the story in Monster Hunter. I don't care about stories in general. The stories can move the needle for me. Stories can make a game better. They can turn a 7 out of 10 to an 8 out of 10, but they're not going to make a 1 out of 10 a 10 out of 10. As the story is not going to move it that much for me. Gameplay will. And gameplay-wise, I enjoyed the fuck out of this. And I also felt like this was... I mean, Monster Hunter in itself is made for replayability. It's made to be experimented with. It's made for trying out different weapons and move sets and finding different combinations of monsters. Yeah, I really loved the monsters interacting with themselves. I hadn't seen anything like that before in the Monster Hunter series, which is a series that I've been playing since Monster Hunter 3. Incredibly fun mechanically. Incredibly fun to defeat monsters. It felt very satisfying. I have many great memories of clutching out a monster while mega low on resources and just managing to sneak that last hit in and getting over the line and being rewarded for that. And it didn't feel that bad to make armor sets as well. Like, I got to get through armor sets pretty quickly. I know that is the criticism of Monster Hunter, is that it is a grind fest to get the armor sets you want, but it really didn't take me very long. Maybe I just got very lucky. But anytime I wanted like a, you know, full armor set of one monster, it did not take too long to get it. The gems was the part that fucked me off about this game. If I had to complain about this game, the whole gem system and the grind for the gems felt like, you know, I'd need to do the same quest 500 times to get the thing I want, which is what this feels like. Gem and mushroom grind weren't fun, yes, but everything besides the gem grind in this game, I just really loved. Another criticism, I'm not a hater of anime. You know, your handler, the other characters, the teammates, like, they were very, very anime, and it was like mega anime stereotype in terms of characters. But again, that's all story stuff, and I started skipping the story stuff. I just clicked through every story thing in Monster Hunter, because the story of every Monster Hunter, and I'm going to spoil Monster Hunter Wilds for you right now. Here's the story for Monster Hunter Wilds. Big monster come, big monster, big danger to human village, kill big monster, then we're saved. I'm sorry, I spoiled the next Monster Hunter for you. You'll find in February 2025 that is the story, and I'm correct. Final Fantasy VII Remake. I did not stream this. So I didn't stream this or this. I did stream this, and I did stream this. Final Fantasy VII Remake is another one that I did not stream. Final Fantasy VII Remake is another one of those games. I'm going to put it in C for now. It has that modern camera problem that I have issues with, where the camera is inside of the asshole of the player character. There are quite a few moments in Final Fantasy VII Remake where you are holding up on the controller to go through a hole in between two fucking bookshelves or two boxes or whatever, and you're just seeing the back of Cloud's head, which I'm sure is a fantasy for a lot of people. It also ruined Aerith for me. I am a fan of the Final Fantasy VII original. To be fair, it has been a long time since I've played the original Final Fantasy VII, but I was a big fan of this game after I first played it on the PlayStation 1 and first finished it. It's a very, very happy memory for me when I first finished Final Fantasy VII. And I guess the voices and the behavior of these characters, I kind of decided they were something that potentially they weren't.
Those on YouTube watching this video, go to twitch.tv/Maynarde and click the gift sub button and choose 100 subs. Then click OK.
I agree. So Final Fantasy VII Remake, once again, this is part 1. I have not played part 2 because I played this on PC. It's the PC version of the remake. I'm not super sure what the difference is between the PC version and the original version on the PlayStation 4. I'm not super sure what the difference is. Maybe it's just performance. Maybe there's new enemies. Maybe there's new quests or whatever. I found all of the side quests boring. I found that they kind of ruined a couple characters, especially Aerith. I don't like Aerith as a character in this game, and I feel like if something happens to her later in the game, then I won't feel the same about it. Let's just say that. If as I did when I was a kid playing this game on the PlayStation. Yeah, so I actually, full disclosure, did not finish this game. I got up to when you fight Rude from the Turks. The bold Turk. Rude, when you fight him. I got up to that point and was just like, I'm going to put this one away for now. I wasn't really enjoying it. It was Cloud and Aerith off doing things. I think they did a cool job making it look amazing. The areas, to give it some glaze, the areas that I saw as a child being reimagined in glorious 2K resolution did look really, really cool. And it is how I imagined them to look, and that's really great. But a lot of the side quest stuff I found very boring. Go down here and fight this group of enemies and then pick up an item and walk back in like very sort of like linear boxes connected by hallways. It just felt not explorative yet. And I know that the second game is when you hit the world map and the first game is just Midgard. But I think this game is also weakened by the fact that it is we're 1/3 of a full experience, and the game is going, like, no matter what, you know the game is going to not end, like, story-wise. You're not going to feel like it's the end of an arc. It's just going to be a, you know, see you next time in the next AAA $100 game. Also, apparently, there is some weird twist that not many people like. The people that have played this game and finished it, some of them really like the twist, some of them really hate it. I know that there is some kind of twist to change what the story is of this game, but I haven't gotten there yet. Kind of aware what it is. It's kind of been spoiled for me, but I don't really care because I don't think I'm going to finish this game either. And I think that's all I have to say about Final Fantasy VII Remake. I feel like, once again, similar to last year, I'm not being very eloquent about the games that I have played a while ago. Like, I need to replay these games or have done maybe a review at the time so I can lock in my thoughts from back then. Because when this was fresh in my mind, I had a lot more to say about it, both positive and negative. And right now, I'm forgetting quite a few of the positives and the negatives, except for the big ones that have stuck with me. Combat-wise was fine. It wasn't enough to make me want to continue to push through all the stuff that was frustrating me. Draw of this game is that it's a remake of a legendary game that a lot of people really, really loved. A lot of people, this is their favorite game in the entirety of Final Fantasy, with all 16 of its mainline entries and its 10 different spin-offs and sequels. This one is probably the most beloved. I think a remake should bring something to the table that's new, which this does. And I like that they tried to reimagine what the original was, but I'm glad the original still exists because I greatly prefer it. I wasn't going to do this show because I was like, I don't think there's anything that's in 2024 that I played that is S tier. But I was wrong. There are, upon reflection, when I was making the list of games, I'm like, no, wait, there are games I would put in S tier. Another Crab's Treasure is the first Souls-like on this list, and it's going into A tier. This game, when I first started playing it, I'm like, this is Babby's first Souls game. This is so easy, and it's so simple, and blah, 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 blah. And then you get a little bit further, and you realize that this game's actually got some chops. And there is some cool stuff you can do in this game. It is clearly very inspired by Elden Ring, specifically. The Sand Between, I think, was the the name of the first major, like, open area that you get into. It has some cool grapple hook mechanics. It has a lot of different ways to play. When I played it, parry was super broken, and I would still actually, even though I memed on it saying that it was Babby's first Souls games, there is some stuff in there. Like, what I like about it is that it has an accessibility menu. It has the ability to summon a gun into the game that one-shots everything, including boss phases. Like, it has ways for you to get to the end and to have a bit of a laugh. This game has also got a good bit of comedy in it that made me chuckle. It has some very heartfelt, lovely moments, and also some dark stuff, some heavy stuff towards the end. That is on the story side of things, and on the game side of things, this game is very, very fun. Really enjoyed traversal, really enjoyed moving around. The camera was kind of fucky in places, not super great in here and there. It's a Souls problem that's been around since the beginning of time, where if you're backed into a corner, everything kind of freaks out a little bit, but it does smartly do that thing where it'll just make some objects invisible so that you can kind of see through them and still be able to keep an eye on what you're doing and control your little crabby man. The different shells and that kind of thing made this game feel unique. It has a magic system tied into the different shells, which I found very fun. Some of the shells were not so great. Some of them were really, really strong and really, really broken, but they let you change your playstyle depending on what kind of shells you got. So if you prefer to play fast and you want to have a lighter shell, you'll have less armor when you block, and you might not have as great a spell or ability on that shell. but you could also play heavy, you know, play on like a high poise kind of Souls equivalent with like a shell that has a lot of hit points, has a big shell hit bar, and has a really strong ability on it, but it affects your movement and it affects your ability to dodge and that kind of thing. And I found that really cool. You know, you get to play the game your way, your play style. And while a lot of playthroughs of this game would probably look similar, it is really your experience, and your playthrough of another Crab's Treasure will be different from another one's. And I think that's really, really cool. That's something that Elden Ring managed to do as well. And this had nowhere near the budget of Elden Ring, but is still a compelling Souls-like, and absolutely is a thumbs up and a recommended buy from me if you enjoy those games. Sheldon Ring. We got another Souls-like coming up. This is Jedi Fallen Order. Straight to A tier. I really enjoyed this game from memory. This one was a little while ago, and it didn't stay in my memory as much as another Crab's Treasure did. I will say that I'm straight up not that big of a fan of Star Wars. I liked the first 3 movies, and I don't mind the prequels as well. And I liked one of the new movies, but I've never really been a massive Star Wars fan. That said, though, to be fair, towards the end of this game, there was a bit that chat did not spoil for me, which I'm very proud of, because that is absolutely the kind of thing that Twitch would spoil for you if you've never played this game before. And it's also, this game is years old, and I am so proud of my chat for, like, you know, I have like between 100 and 200 viewers for my streams usually. And for a viewership of that many to not spoil that for me is impressive. And I must admit, even though I am not a huge fan of Star Wars, what fan of Star Wars I am was getting serviced hard by the end of that game. This game ran pretty well. It was a good looking game. Graphically, very, very cool. Sound design was really excellent. And the different play styles were also fun to experiment with. Traversal and exploration was also kind of fun. The first Jedi world that you go back to that has like all these different sort of areas that you can't unlock until you get certain abilities was a little bit confusing, but other than that first world, I found it very fun to explore and not too hard to get into all the nooks and crannies and to explore this game. I was looking for more combat in this game, and when I got to the part of the game where they start to show you the Purge Troopers, I think that's what they're called. When the game started to introduce Purge Troopers, I was like, ooh, and then it started to really spice up the battles because you basically had like a lot of different Empire fodder that you would just rip and tear through, and you would deflect them, and it just felt like really satisfying to just fight like big groups of enemies, and that power fantasy of being a Jedi was definitely there. And it also felt like you were growing in power as you went through the game as well, which was nice. When you got to a Purge Trooper and you started to fight them, it's like, oh, okay, here come the people that are actually trained to fight against Jedi. You know, they are the Empire's anti-Jedi force. Those guys arrived at precisely the right time to keep me engaged and want me to basically not play stupidly. A lot of the fights against the Empire and the Purge Troopers I enjoyed. I didn't really enjoy fighting the wildlife much. The main antagonist had a pretty compelling backstory. I liked her music a lot. It felt scary whenever you were in a fight with her. I think you have like 3 major boss fights with her, with the ending one being the hardest one, as you would imagine. I also, like, just to talk about the sound a little bit more and to talk about the music, this had such a John Williams-esque score that I think also really carried it and helped you with that power fantasy. I can't imagine Indiana Jones without its music, and I can't imagine Star Wars without its music. I feel like those things need to be together. I'm going to be really... I don't like being negative. I'm going to be really, really fast with Jedi Survivor. Jedi Survivor is in C or D tier. Wait, come back here. So Jedi Survivor is the second game for Jedi Fallen Order. It is this long-awaited sequel. This game, the best part of it was that it was on Game Pass. It ran badly. It looked great. It had some good open world stuff. It felt like more explorative with the open worlds, and that like you could, you know, do a bit more kind of sandboxy things. Like I liked that part of it. We could just walk around and the sandboxes weren't so big and that they felt overwhelming and like you were wandering around. It felt like you were kind of adventuring and exploring, which is nice. One quick thing. This is also kind of a Metroidvania game, but so are a lot of Souls games. You get more and more traversal abilities to be able to backtrack and see other areas that you couldn't have seen when you first got to them. And I liked that part about this game as well. And that follows again in Jedi Survivor. So that's another positive for Jedi Survivor, is that I liked when you get more and more traversal abilities, you get to explore and that sort of thing. And exploring is fun. But the game ran really badly. Performance-wise, it was a real slog. I'd get like 20, 30 FPS in like some areas, and way worse than that in the bigger areas, like in the open world areas. Like that first sort of early game area ran like shit for me. And I think a lot of people are having performance issues. So while I'm usually one to be like, okay, maybe it's my computer because my computer's kind of mid-tier. Maybe it's my computer. This one, I think, had performance issues for a lot of people. There are a lot of different play styles, which I thought were cool. I liked the gun and sword combos. I liked the different, I guess, blade modes that you could have. That was a positive. But the Purge Troopers that were a big positive of this game actually kind of made this game worse for me. It felt like every enemy was a fucking Purge Trooper. I got sick of fighting stuff in this game because it felt like they heard people say that they liked Purge Troopers in this game, and they were just like, oh, so more Purge Troopers. Copy paste, copy paste, copy paste, copy paste, copy paste. And it felt like all of a sudden there weren't fodder enemies anymore. Every enemy was some kind of Purge Trooper where you needed to worry about their unblockable attack and their parry attack, and they take way too long to kill. And a lot of the engagements in this game, like I played this on the highest difficulty, and this game, I brought it down, not because it was, I mean, it was hard, but I brought it down to easy because it just took too long to fight stuff. It took too long, and it was too annoying, and too many of the fights were just not good encounters for me. Like I would have rather there just been a group of deflectable Imperium up there, not guys with sniper rifles that you need to parry at the correct time that also take forever to die. Like when you go and meet them melee range, all of a sudden they're not a sniper anymore. There's some fucking Black Widow from Marvel Avengers. Then they're fucking backflipping around, and you're like, oh my god, everyone's a Purge Trooper. Everyone's a Purge Trooper. And I was starting to fall off right about when you get to the boss fight against that guy in the big armored suit. The guy that's like a bunch of, I don't remember his name, but he was like an alien inside of a big armored suit that basically like he could move his organs around, and his whole body could sort of shift around. So it was like really hard to kill. That boss fight, I didn't really enjoy it. Also, I remember when we played this game, I did enjoy the first boss fight against the antagonist in this game, the main antagonist. I will just say that the antagonist in this game was very, very predictable and very kind of like, you know, not complicated, not really very deep, not really very interesting kind of bad guy. I liked the interesting, I thought the bad guy and the kind of tragic nature of the bad guy in this game was a lot better. So all those things combined, the non-stop Purge Troopers, everyone being a fucking ninja and having lightsabers and being able to, like, I didn't feel like a powerful Jedi anymore. That was I remember, this is coming back to me now. That was the part of this game, that's when I realized that I didn't feel like I was enjoying this game anymore, was I didn't feel like a powerful Jedi anymore. I'm meant to be further along in my journey as a Jedi, and I am meant to be more powerful. My character is meant to be even stronger and better than he was in this game, where he was sort of like going from Padawan to full-blown Jedi. And I felt stronger in this game than I did in this game because of all the enemies being fucking ninjas with their own lightsabers. You know what I mean? D tier. So this just didn't. It took the stuff that was good about this game and made it not fun anymore, and it didn't make me feel like a cool Jedi anymore. So I put this down here. I just felt like a regular ass dude with a lightsaber. Nard likes games to be easy. Noted. I like games to be hard, but I like them to be fun hard. You know what I mean? Like your dad. Your dad's fun hard. Okay, so that's Jedi Survivor. Mullet Mad Jack. Boom. If you like to play FPSs and you like to play fast, and you want everything dopamine to be injected into your eyeballs and brain and your ballsack at an incredible speed, this is the game for you. Mullet Mad Jack, I played and finished. It was pretty fast. I think I finished it in like 3 or 4 hours, but it has like a lot of replayability and its challenge modes and that kind of thing. The satisfaction you get from this game and just annihilating enemies at a really fast pace. And also like the music in this game is so incredible. If you like that kind of retro wave, synth wave stuff, but like really pumpy, this game has that for you. It has a very like 80s, 90s anime aesthetic, which I also think is infinitely cool. You know, like that kind of Akira era of art style, that kind of like old Pat Labor kind of art style from the 80s and 90s. Guns, check. Booba, check. Fast cars, check. S tier. Yeah. I'd say that the only thing that kind of wasn't great about this game was the boss fights. But it is exactly what it says on the tin. It's high octane, dopamine injecting, fast FPS fun. If you like that kind of thing, this game, it really, really is for you. And I like that kind of thing, so this game is for me. This was my favorite game of the year so far, up until this point. I didn't play this until later in the year. I played this pretty early in the year, and early in the year, I'm like, oh, that's a front runner so far for my 2024 game of the year. Even then at the time was like, oh, I wouldn't put it in S tier though. It's not quite, it isn't a game I could see myself replaying over and over and over again. I did feel like it was getting pretty samey towards the end, and that I was kind of like, I'm like, yeah, I get it. I got to that point in this game, and I still to this day don't really feel like replaying it yet. Like, I need more time, but I could see myself replaying this game because I do remember having, when I first played it, my first playthrough especially, was super, 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 super fun. Forgive Me Father. Forgive Me Father is another FPS. Once again, it has that Lovecraftian aesthetic on it. So Forgive Me Father has that kind of Lovecraftian thing going on, which I do really enjoy. It has 2 different player characters. I didn't play the priest. I played the reporter. I'm just going to chuck this in the middle here while I think about it. I will start with the positives. I really liked the music. I liked again, the Lovecraftian aesthetic of it all. Some of the guns were very satisfying. I liked the comic book sort of graphic art style of it, like that very kind of Frank Miller-y, Todd McFarlane-y looking hard lines and shadows kind of graphic art style. I liked that. I liked that headshots were very rewarding and satisfying, and a lot of the guns just felt really good. And it had some fun arena fights, like big arena fights. I remember having a good time in a lot of those. And playing, I think I played this on a higher difficulty. I don't know if it was on the highest difficulty or not, but I played it on a higher difficulty. But to get to the negatives, the level up mechanics in this game, there was like a skill tree in this game. I didn't feel a massive difference from putting stuff in that level up tree. I'm sure it was there, but I felt like I would have played the same way anyway, even with those level ups and changing how the guns work and that sort of thing. Like I didn't really enjoy or feel the effect of any of them. None of them were memorable for me. So I'm sure that they did affect things, but I didn't feel it besides guns changing. And towards the end of the game, I was getting very, very sick of it. The game went a little bit too long. It overstayed its welcome, and I did not finish the game because when I got to the final area and I was in this giant sort of like cosmic horror wilderness with a temple in the middle of it, I was like, oh, I'm done. I was just getting tired of it. I think that FPSs like this, and I feel the same way about Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal. I think that once you're at the 8 to 10 hour mark, you should wrap it up. And I think that it just like that extra hour and a bit just got me a little bit tired of it. So I played this back in July, and I'm sure once again I had more to say about it when I was fresh in my mind. I should really make notes during the year so that I can do this show better. So apologies in that regard. Forgive Me Father, I didn't finish it. Full disclosure. I spent money to buy the soundtrack specifically because I really enjoyed the soundtrack. Riven! We'll put it in the middle, and while we'll talk about it, this is a game that I technically have played before, but when I first played it, it was as a kid, and I didn't even complete the first puzzle. Like my friend and I, who finished Myst together, we got this game back in the 90s. We like couldn't get anywhere. We were stuck on the first island, and we couldn't do shit, and we felt so dumb. The thing that I really liked about Myst is that all of the puzzles are contained inside of that world. When you book travel to a different world in Myst, everything you need is inside of that world. And Riven has this major puzzle that is to do with all of the islands as puzzles. And there's a major puzzle that even like some of the islands, I guess, more contained puzzles require things from other places. And there was kind of a hint system, but it did feel like I was wandering around a lot, not knowing what to do next. I'm very proud of myself for being able to figure out that major puzzle, the one that's in the very middle of all the islands with the colors and the blocks and the lining up and that sort of thing. I'm very proud of myself for being able to solve that. But I found Riven to just be maybe like a little bit more obtuse than I would have liked in a puzzle game. And maybe that's because I'm stupid, but it was not guiding me enough. And I don't like being guided too much, but I don't like being zero guided when there are so many moving parts. It looked really great. I think they did a great job with the remaster. Even the FMV stuff I found like still lived up and was really, really nice. I found it satisfying to complete some of the puzzles in it, but I found it maybe like a little bit too obtuse. We did finish it. We did get to the end. We did get the credit scene. We did get the good ending. There were some hard gotcha deaths in this game and like jump scare bad ending stuff, but it was satisfying in the end. but maybe like a little bit too obtuse. And this is a, you know, 30-year-old game, so, well, not 30 years old. It's like 25 years old or something like that. So, and it has a VR version, which would be fun for people that really like puzzle games and have VR headsets and don't get sick in VR. I'm gonna say that Riven is probably. I did finish it, but okay, it's a finished game, but I'm gonna put it down here just because it wasn't satisfying enough to ever want to replay this. I would never want to replay this. And it had good parts, but like just not fun enough. Talos Principle 2, another puzzle game. Putting it in the middle. I have played and completed Talos Principle 1. This one I did not finish, but I found the new mechanics in Talos Principle 2 to be very cool. I liked some of the new stuff that they introduced. You know, the drill was cool. I didn't get very far. I think I got to like the second major area. I could see that the puzzle block of my stream was starting to lose steam. You know, we're getting less and less viewers, and not many people were subscribing, and it wasn't very like active and fun in the chat. So I just kind of went, okay, I think people are over it. Moving on. Let's get out of the puzzle block and get into other things. Talos Principle 2, I found really fun though, but it does have the same problem of Talos Principle 1 in that there is a lot of like in Talos Principle 1. It was all in text, so you could kind of skip over it if you weren't too interested. But there was and it was maybe like hidden a little bit better. Not really well hidden, but hidden a little bit better. There was that whole like, I've just started learning philosophy in college, and I have done 3 weeks of it, and I am now the smartest person alive, and really makes you think kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like very, very sophomoric philosophy kind of diatribe in Talos Principle 1. And the biggest negative of Talos Principle 2 is that everyone is like that, and not a single character is interesting to me. I muted voices in the first 30 minutes. I turned off all voice acting. I turned it all off. I didn't want to hear what anyone had to say. I just wanted to complete puzzles. It was really, really like nails on a chalkboard with what the shit that they were saying. It was very hashtag deep. So I muted the voices, but as a game and as a puzzle, I found this game very fun. I'm going to leave it in B tier. Bottom of B tier. So over here are my most fun B tier games, and on the right side, so on the left side is most fun, on the right side was not as fun. just gonna do that real quick. Okay, Stormgate. I'm going to preface this with a big asterisk. RTS is a genre that I'm just not really interested in right now. For me, Stormgate was... I played a little bit of the campaign, and I did a couple ladder games just because I wanted to experience it. But it is, again, similar to Subnautica. Stormgate, for me, felt like I didn't experience anything. Just to talk about the game and put the genre aside, I didn't really... I don't enjoy RTS at all at the moment. And Stormgate didn't show me anything that I liked more than other RTSs, and it didn't show me anything new. I will also say, as another big asterisk, I didn't play the third race that got introduced. I only played Infernals and the Vanguard. That's what they're called. I only played Infernals and Vanguard, and I didn't play that many games. And you really got to play a lot to get a good feel for it. And I did not play a lot, so I didn't get a good feel for it. And I didn't play the third race, and that's probably the new thing, but I'm just not interested. It's just not where I'm at. I really love everyone that is involved in this game. I love them on a personal level. I have met most of them personally. I've spoken to most of them personally over the years. And I think that this game could potentially be great if it is given the opportunity to do so, and hopefully it is. I know right now it doesn't have a lot of players. It's kind of looking dire for Stormgate, but I hope that that narrative switches, and I honestly, from the bottom of my heart, wish Frost Giant the best. I want this game to succeed because I want them to succeed, because I would hate for them to shut down after, you know, having a game that's just not well received and just basically, you know, setting a whole pile of money on fire. I would hate that. I would hate for that to be the ending for Stormgate. I want this game. I want more RTSs to be big and more options for my RTS brothers and sisters that are still full-time. So it's very sad to feel this way about it, but it really was like so far my least enjoyed game that I personally played. Again, reiterating, really don't enjoy RTS right now. This is my feeling, and I played it barely 3 hours of Stormgate. Like, I really did not play much of it. Space Marine 1. When I first played this game, we're putting in B again. Wait, look. When I first... Okay, Space Marine 1. Reset. I started playing it, and I was ripping tearing the orcs, and I made it to, like, the first kind of horde area when you start to get grenades, and I was just like, it's all right. And then I just stopped, and I don't remember why. And I will also say, full disclosure, I played this with an FOV mod. So the FOV was a little bit higher. It was like 50% better than the original retail version. So I did mod it slightly, just to have a little bit better of a FOV camera, which helped my experience. I did play and finish this game, and it felt very much a game of its time. It felt like an Xbox 360 action third-person action video game, and I liked that. I like those games for the most part, and this game was overall quite fun, but it did get very samey. Even when they started to introduce chaos, that was cool, and there were some like cool moments. They introduced chaos at the right time to keep it interesting enemy variety-wise, but it was not enough to carry the entire campaign for me. The boss fights were very simple. Like performance-wise, I like Mark Strong. Mark Strong did the voice for Titus in this game. Performance-wise was also kind of like funny bad in some parts. Like when you hit the Spartan Rage button in Space Marine 1, he literally goes like, ah. In the talking scenes, he was fine. There was a lot of gruff testosterone grunting between the large men, which is very Warhammer. I think maybe because I feel kind of middle about it, I'm going to leave it in the middle. I got to finally play and finish this game, and I thought it was good, not great. I'd either put it top of C or bottom of B. It was kind of cool to see the glory kill mechanic, I guess, in a game like pre Duke Nukem Forever, pre-Doom 20, like predates Doom 2016 by a lot. This is kind of like the first glory kill game that I remember playing, where you're incentivized to push forward and not get, like, there is no cover in this game. It is very much a go and fight things, go out there and tear them apart. But worry about the ranged units. Those ranged units will fuck you up. Oh, I put it top of C. And also the final boss. Spoiling the final boss. Gonna put my hand up once again. Spoilers here. The final boss left a fucking terrible taste in my mouth because it was literally a QTE. It was a jump scare QTE. The QTE was out of nowhere. There was no QTEs in this game at all. No quick time events in this game at all. And suddenly, out of nowhere, a quick time event. It's like they ran out of time and they didn't know how to finish the game, so they're just like, I don't know, just to make a QTE for the final boss. Hand down, no more spoilers. So that also left a bad taste in my mouth. Just what a horrible ending. Black Myth Wukong. Black Myth Wukong, another Souls-like. Really felt like you were mashing the attack button and you had 1 or 2 combos, and that's pretty much it. You have multiple different fighting styles, and the thing that I found very disappointing about Black Myth Wukong is that you have the promise of something cool with all these different fighting styles. You know, you have the pillar stance where you sort of perched on top of the pillar, and you have the heavy thwack stance. You have the sort of mid-range thing, and then you have the spear variant of your staff. But all they really change is your heavy finisher. They don't really change your main combo at all. Your main moveset is the same the whole game, and this game is not small. This is a very long game. And it has a very saggy middle. Not unlike myself. There's 6 chapters in this game, and the 3rd chapter was way too big and way too long, way too much like I was wandering around rather than exploring. That was the snow level. I think that was chapter 3. And it also has this one prison level, which is extremely frustrating, where you have this thing that happens on a timer where you just get half your health. Like, your health gets halved. And that mechanic is there even in the boss fight of that area. And that boss fight, I think they patched it, that when I played that boss fight, it was a slog and it was not fun. So there are some very high highs and very low lows in Black Myth Wukong, and this is another game that kind of overstayed its welcome a little bit, but was overall a pretty fun game. Performance-wise, it ran pretty badly for me. This was an Unreal Engine 5 game, and I have struggles with Unreal Engine 5 games. I know for some people, this game purred like a kitten and ran like a dream. Ran like a monkey up a tree. Get it? Because it's a monkey game. For me, this game did not run very well. It had good performance in the earlier areas where that were less complicated and less sprawling. And then when you get a little bit further along, and especially in the 6th chapter where it opens up big time and you get to fly around a little bit more and traversal around a little bit more and explores kind of like a more, I guess, sandboxy zone in the final chapter, it ran like ass. I think I'm happy to leave it middle-ish. So just to finalize with Black Myth Wukong, I think that I can see why this game is Game of the Year for a lot of people, because it's a very, you can see that it's a very, very expensive game. It's a very set PC game. It has some big bosses and some very cool moments. It is also the first time that the Journey to the West has been represented in such a glorious manner, which is one of the oldest fantasy stories that exists. It's really cool for the Chinese mythology to be brought into the West in such a glorious way. So a lot of people really, really enjoyed this one and really, really enjoyed the gameplay specifically, and I found it fine. So I'm going to leave it in the fine area. Didn't think it was especially good, didn't think it was especially bad. Really enjoyed the beginning, really started to get fed up with it in the middle, and the ending, I felt like maybe a little bit exhausted towards the end. And again, I really would have liked some more combos and move variety. Something a little bit more like those like your Bayonettas, like your God of Wars, where you have multiple weapons that unlock different movesets. And I know you can technically get other weapons, there's a spear or that kind of thing, but it really didn't feel that different. Whereas, like, in those other games, especially like God of War, you can get different movesets with different weapons, and you can enter different combos. Devil May Cry and those kind of games, you can get, like, different movesets, and in other Souls games, you can play with different weapons that also unlock different movesets, and it just feels like you have your own playthrough that really felt like it was yours. Whereas I imagine that Black Myth Wukong's playthroughs would all look pretty similar for everybody, because they're all going to be using the same weapon, the same movesets, and the same... their heavy finisher might be different here and there, but they're also going to be using the really strong spells, and you have your spells and abilities and that kind of thing, but some are really, really, really effective, and some of them are not so much. And I don't know where the game's at now. I haven't played it since it got released, but at the time, that's how I felt. Maybe it's been changed in patches and stuff since then, but that's where I'm at with Black Myth Wukong. All right, Angerfoot. Angerfoot is very similar to Mullet Mad Jack. And I put it in the middle while I talk about it. It is a very, very fast time trial focused FPS game where you are trying to find the most efficient path from the beginning of the game to the end, like from the beginning of the level to the end, and you are trying to do it as fast and efficient as possible, being blasted by hardstyle EDM the whole time while you're doing it. It's like the whole time. So this game was another one of those games that's really just injected dopamine into your brain through your eyeballs and through your ears. It was very satisfying to play. It was really funny. There was some really funny things in Angerfoot that just got big hearty belly chuckles out of me. The clown foot, the foot that went directly up and just like it looked like your kick was going directly up and just uppercutting dudes. It made me laugh every time I used it. The problems with Angerfoot were, for me, I'm pretty sure it's impossible to get every star in one run. Like, you have to go back and replay it with more shoes that you unlock later. And I think that that's a big mistake, because for me, I like to do 100% runs and stuff if I can, if I really enjoy a game, which I did at the time for Angerfoot. I want to be able to get every star. If I play really well, I want to be able to get every star at the beginning without needing a specific shoe or without sacrificing one objective by doing another. There were a few where it's like you have to do this, which completely contradicts the other star. You cannot get that star without doing this if you choose to go down this path. And sure, the levels are short and you can replay them, but I really dislike the decision to not let you get every star in one run. Like, to just change one of those objectives to something else so that you can get every star. And like, I would love the idea of doing an all-star run from the beginning of the game to the end of the game and doing it all in one sitting, and really dislike that you have to go back with different shoes to unlock the last few stars. But the levels are short, so it's not super egregious, and it is another one of those games like Mullet Mad Jack. It is made to be replayed because you can finish a level in seconds. So it's not egregious. The main thing that let me down with this game is it actually just ran really badly. I don't remember the engine that this game ran on, but it had performance issues in some of the more like enemy dense open areas, like the building tops chapter was quite rough performance-wise. A lot of the indoor chapters were fine, but the outdoor chapters were not fine. So Angerfoot, I did not like as much as Mullet Mad Jack, but I did enjoy it more than Helldivers, so maybe like top of B. Put it up here. Yeah, this game made me laugh, and it was very like aesthetically fun. And I would recommend it. If you like Mullet Mad Jack, and you like FPSs, and you like going fast, I would recommend these two games to you, and I would be surprised if you didn't have a good time and see something you like there. Kingdom Come Deliverance. I'm going to put it in B while I talk about it. I didn't stream this game, but I got it because it was literally $3. And I knew that it was a big, like, RPG that a lot of people really liked. Just dove straight into it. I had not seen anyone play the game before, but I knew that it was like one of those games that was quite difficult. And it was marketed by being like really immersive and that kind of thing. And I thought, oh yeah, cool. I'd like to get into like a realistic sort of grounded, more immersive medieval RPG, first-person RPG. I'm like, great. So in I went. And at first, I found it really compelling. I guess, like, to be honest, a little bit frustrating at first because I couldn't win any fight. Every fight, I just got annihilated. But that's, like, part of the experience. Like, I think they intended that. Like, you're meant to be weak at first and become strong later. The things that I did like about it was I thought that the voice performances were cool. It did feel kind of immersive once it opened up a little bit. The story was... you're not going to blow anyone's minds. Don't want to spoil it, even though it happens at the very, very beginning. Don't want to spoil anything. But it's pretty straightforward. It's not anything you haven't heard before. You kind of complete your character's arc, I feel like, relatively early. Unless you're doing a lot of side stuff. You kind of complete your character's arc relatively early, and then it just keeps going. I'm like, oh, okay, we're still going here. All right, like it felt like you didn't really have a whole lot of skin in the game for your main character Henry at that point. Once you've completed your objective without spoiling it, it just kept going. And I just kind of like lost interest with the game and stopped playing it. Because of partly because I didn't really care about what was happening next for Henry and for his the geopolitical implications of what was happening in that kingdom. And I didn't, and also the combat started to get kind of too easy. So I chose to go like in a sword and then to a hammer sort of play style. And I found that I was just like annihilating everyone after a certain point where it really flipped on its head. Where at the start I felt like it was a challenge and it was interesting, and then there was a middle part where it was really fun to like fight one or two, like fighting a 1v2 and coming out on top and just barely surviving. Felt really cool and kind of like more immersive. But then I got to the point where I could take on like a base of guys by myself and just like it got a little bit too brain dead. Combat-wise towards the end. And it also felt like, the game kind of teaches you, oh, you can swing from the left and swing from the right. If they're blocking on the right, swing from the left. And that feels like a lie. I don't know if you guys felt that way as well, but I felt like that was a lie. Like, it doesn't matter what direction you attack from. All that matters is that you combo. Every hit you get makes your enemy weaker. Combo is so much more important than attack direction. You just have to keep doing the combos, basically. And you learn the combos the more you use the weapons. And when you go to like weapon masters and that kind of thing, you learn the combos. And if and it doesn't matter what combo you're doing. You pick one combo. Just keep doing that combo over and over and over again, and you will annihilate everybody. Like once you get to a certain skill level, it felt like once you hit like skill level 5 or 10 in any of the weapons, you were just like you weren't a blacksmith turned knight anymore. You were now the Doomslayer. Maybe I should have been playing The Only Thing They Fear Is You at 11 out of 10 volume while I was soloing entire bases of bandits. Started to lose interest in this game towards the end. It's a do not finish from me, but it had a good start and a fun middle, and I'm going to put it top of C. I'm interested in the sequel, but wasn't enough to keep me interested, and was only fun like right in the middle, kind of like opposite Black Myth Wukong. where I found the beginning rough and then started to get more interested in the middle and then fall off towards the end. This one I like the middle. At the beginning I loved, and then the middle I started to really lose interest. Kind of opposite, like with Wukong there. Also, stealth sucks as a smaller side for Kingdom Come Deliverance. Like, it technically is something you can do, but it sucks. There is like the playstyle that I chose. I think I accidentally chose the best playstyle, which is put on a lot of armor, don't stealth, just keep swinging. Just keep swinging. Just keep swinging. Swing, swing, swing. Deadlock! Putting it in the middle while I talk about it. Deadlock, an esport. Maynarde plays espats. I did not play many hours of Deadlock, so my opinion is of the opinion of someone that has played maybe, you know, half a dozen hours. Not that many. I played a few games. Technically, I played it enough to say that I played this game. So Deadlock is a game that I really just... I feel like I don't have time to get into it because this is one of those games that I could see myself getting really, really, really into. And I'm trying to put it aside successfully so far. I've been putting it aside in... because I've been trying to stream things that I think are going to be more interesting for you guys. And it's the kind of game that I feel like I need to concentrate on to get better at. Because there is a game knowledge wall to Deadlock where if you're just playing the game and having fun and clicking on stuff, there is fun to be had there. But if you want to do well, you do need to learn what is good and what is not good. I think the tutorial in this game gives you what you need to start off with. And there are like pre-loadout, I guess, item builds as well, similar to Dota, that will give you something to work with. But there is a big game knowledge part of this game in terms of learning what the other heroes do. You need to know what the other heroes do, what's safe and unsafe, and also what items are good for your situation, and to be able to build on the fly. Very, very similar to League of Legends and Dota in that regard, and this really feels like a much more fun Dota 2 to me. Like, Dota 2 I liked, but didn't really get super into it because I didn't really enjoy how it felt to play. This game, I enjoy how it feels to play. I really, really enjoy the feeling of playing this game and shooting things and having that kind of, you know, a decent enough third-person camera. And I liked the movement as well in this game. I really liked, you know, the double jumping, the dashing, the zipping to the zip lines, going from home base over to like unlocked objectives and that kind of thing. I really liked the speed of this game as well. And the characters were cool, you know, some cool designs there, very original looking kind of characters. You can kind of tell what they're about by looking at them as well. Like they're designed and like the art style is designed in a way where you can kind of see what kind of character that is before you even get in there and start playing it. And I think that this game is potentially I don't know if it's going to be a Dota 2 killer, but maybe like a successor. It's made by IceFrog. I think the same developer of Dota 2. I think it's the same guy. And you can really feel the Dota 2 DNA in here. And I think that this game's going to pop off. I think it's a really, really, really compelling and fun MOBA. It is the most fun MOBA I've ever played. And I am wanting to spend more time playing it, but I don't know when I would spend more time. I don't know where I'm going to get that time from. But my esports engine is kind of bubbling where I find it hard to just go in there and just play it and just have fun with it and not think about it, because my brain is like, no, I want to learn, and I don't think I'm going to learn if I just streamed, you know, ladder sessions of Deadlock. And sadly, also, my group of friends that I play multiplayer games with didn't like this game at all. So this is a solo experience for me so far. None of my mates really gelled with it. One of them really hated it. So I'm on my own with this one. So really didn't get many hours in here. I'm going to leave it bottom of B. But it is the most fun MOBA I've played. But as far as MOBAs are concerned, I've never really had tons of fun with them. I usually fall off them pretty fast. But it is so far more fun than I've had with League, more fun than I've had with Dota, more fun than I had with Heroes of the Storm. I enjoy it more than all of those games. But I need to spend time to really solidify how I feel about this game. Space Marine 2, putting it in the B tier while I talk about it. Space Marine 2, we just played very recently. The tutorial, unfortunately, I had server issues. I couldn't connect very well. I had lag in the tutorial, and I got frustrated with the fact that I couldn't just play the game offline to begin with. I was forced online to even play the tutorial, and that really frustrated me, and it made me kind of like rage uninstall it. So When the game first came out in September, it was very, very disappointing, and I just recently, now, you know, it's January 1st, 2025 for me now as I'm recording this, but it is, when I first played this game at the end of December, I finally got to play this game and see what it was all about. I didn't have any server issues. I installed this on a better hard drive as well. I only just learned in the last month that one of my hard drives is not great, so that also might have contributed to this being a terrible experience performance-wise. But I finally got to experience it, and all I can say is, yeah, I get it. I get it. I know why people like this game a lot. It is straight up Warhammer 40k porn. There are a lot of giant, gruff, testosterone-filled dudes that are grunting at each other and yelling at each other and for the Emperor at each other and purge the filthy Xenosing at each other. There is a very weighty, kinetic, satisfying feeling to this game when you're right-clicking and just chain-sorting an entire group of Tyranids and the blood is exploding everywhere. It's very satisfying. It has that kind of hit stop to it where you go through things. There's kind of like that micro stutter when you go through things that really feels like that impact. You know, it's in Monster Hunter, it's in fighting games. That really makes it feel like you just go crunch through everything when you hit something. You know, especially when you get to the Thunder Hammer, slamming your hammer down and just annihilating groups of enemies. Feels really, really satisfying. Very visceral. It is the continuation of the story of Captain Titus, Captain Titties, who's now Lieutenant Titus. And story-wise, it's... I don't know. Story-wise, it exists technically. Titus is the main compelling part of it is that there's like a, you know, is he corrupted or is he not corrupted? Will his teammates believe in him or not? And it's fine, you know, it's fine. But what this game does really, really, really well is its set pieces and environment designs. I normally don't care much about graphics. It does move the needle for me. To be fair, if a game looks really good, it is going to help. It's not going to make a game good for me. I'm not going to like a game just purely because it looks good. It still needs to be fun, and it still needs to sound good too. All those things are a sum of its parts. I care a lot more about gameplay. The scale and the grandiosity of Space Marine 2 is something that I have not seen in any game before. That has that kind of like, I've seen that kind of scale in like Total War games, but in like I'm boots on the ground, one unit, and I'm playing an action game, third-person camera from the ground. I had not seen scale like that from that perspective before, and it was mind-blowing. It was mind-blowing. And the amount of Warhammer 40k porn is really at an all-time high in Space Marine 2. You've got dreadnoughts bursting through the walls and feeding like Chaos Dreadnoughts a mouthful of fucking automatic bolter fire. You've got chapter masters just appearing and glowing with the holy light of the Emperor and cutting through chaos corruption and just like ripping and tearing through entire groups of chaos terminators. You've got giant cinch demons out in the distance. You've got carnifexes and hive tyrants just bursting through walls and ripping things to shreds, and you 1v1 them in glorious combat, or I guess 3v1 because you've got your two teammates. You've got your Imperial Guard just screaming Cadia. They've got like commissars just like barking orders and telling the guards that if they retreat they'll die and they'll shoot them themselves. And you're walking through ranks of armies moving in formation, and they're like Lehman Russ tanks coming past, and just big set pieces of las gun and las cannon fire against like hordes of Xenos. It is straight up pornography for a Warhammer 40k fan, and I am a fan of the world of Warhammer 40k, the grim darkness of the future, there is only war, and I enjoy that aesthetic. I find it very silly over the top. It makes me laugh sometimes, even though it's meant to be very serious. The seriousness of some of it makes me laugh because of how ridiculous the scale is of some stuff in Warhammer, but I like it overall, and I enjoy reading the books of Warhammer. As a video game, this was very, very fun for a while, but it got very, very samey in the last quarter of the game. I want to say the last 25% of the game, it was getting very, very samey. It did not go for very long, though, which I appreciate. The game did not go for like a very extended period of time. It felt like the missions maybe went like a little bit too long. Like some of the missions felt like they were 45 minutes to an hour per mission. Similar to Space Marine 1, I think that it introduced the chaos. It introduced chaos at the right time. I thought the boss fights were actually really good in this game for the most part. I liked the perfect dodge and perfect parry riposte mechanic where you can shoot with your gun. And the camera, like the biggest negative for this game for me is the camera. And I know I've bitched about the camera for several of the games on this list already. There was no FOV patch that I could play with to make this game more my kind of experience. But the camera is inside of the asshole of Captain Titus the whole time. Unless when you're in combat and you're meleeing, that pulls back, and that's when that's where I want the camera to be when you're traversing around. And when you're in combat, I want it to pull back a little bit more. And I understand that part of the decision why developers have done that is because they put so much work into the detail of your character, and they want you to really like drink in all that glorious detail and his power armor and see how beautiful his helmet and cape and like his drape and his cloth physics just flapping in the breeze behind his butt, and get a good close up of his gauntlets with his weapon in his hand and all this stuff. I understand that, but I really think that you can bring the camera in and give everyone that Warhammer 40k close up porn during the glory kills, during the executions. You can do it then, but just give me more camera space. And also when you're aiming down sights, not really with the bolter, but definitely with like any scoped weapon, like the scoped bolters and the sniper rifles, it felt very, I don't know. It felt very like hard to aim. The mouse sensitivity for some reason went weird. But yeah, like ADSing in Space Marine 2 felt kind of crap. I didn't really enjoy it. Any kind of like sniper or scoped weapon I didn't find very satisfying. I found mid to close range to be really the sweet spot for this game, and I think that's where a lot of the work went into anyway. Which is unfortunate because there are a lot of long-range units that are kind of like the scariest things in this game. Zoanthropes, thank you. The Zoanthropes I found to be kind of annoying, but I liked that they were a part of the roster and there weren't too many of them. And that you could defeat them with like a bolter. You know, you didn't need to have a sniper rifle to defeat those guys. The set pieces, the scale, absolutely incredible. The gameplay, not bad, pretty good. And just to talk about the other game modes, there's Operations and PvP. I didn't play PvP at all. I did Operations a little bit. It's okay. It's a horde shooter. It's more of Space Marine 2, but the problem is that when I finished the campaign, I was feeling like it was very samey and I was kind of done with it. I'm like, all right, I get it. I want to stop playing Space Marine 2 now. The co-op PvE missions just wasn't very fun for me. I wasn't having a great time doing them yesterday. I find horde shooters not very interesting. Again, like just to reiterate with where is it? Helldivers 2. To reiterate with Helldivers 2, I couldn't really stick with this because I was kind of like, yeah, I get it, and then I stopped. And that's the same with this one with the PvE kind of stuff. I'm like, yeah, I get it, and then I stopped. And I'm not going to play those missions. I've already uninstalled the game and gotten my 50 gigs of hard drive space back. I've had my Space Marine 2 time. I enjoyed it. It was pretty good. I'm going to put it top of B tier. All right, it's time for the horror block. Woo! Scary horror games. Here we go. Crow Country. I'm putting it straight here so you just talk about it while I have it in the middle of the tier list. Crow Country. An indie survival horror third-person kind of game with full camera movement. So it didn't have fixed cameras. Kind of had full camera movement. So Crow Country was a love letter to that kind of Resident Evil 1 era of survival horror. And it was a pretty quick, pretty tight experience. It was very fun to adventure in. Combat was not great, but that's not the focus of a game like this. The focus of games like this is exploration and puzzles, and managing your resources and that sort of thing. I played it on the higher difficulty and found it to be a decent challenge. I definitely failed a few times. The story is not a whole lot to speak about, but if you like classic Resident Evil, if you like classic Silent Hill, you are almost certainly going to enjoy this game. It doesn't overstay its welcome. It's a nice, tight survival horror experience, and indie games are great. This game I enjoyed quite a bit. I'm going to put it bottom of A. This was a very strong start to Spooktober. It was probably my weakest Spooktober yet in terms of like games. I didn't enjoy as many of the Spooktober games as I did in previous years. But this one was a strong start. I liked this game a lot. It was very, very fun for me. And it's the kind of game that I feel like replaying straight away. Like, replayability is important for me, and this game, I wanted to get back in there and try and like do it faster, challenge myself. I didn't get all the secrets, no, but I want to. So I still have this game installed. I haven't uninstalled it. I'm ready to get back in there into Crow Country and have some fun with it. Hollowbody! Gonna put it back in the B tier here. Hollowbody is another love letter to survival horror. This is, I think, one developer or a very, very small development team, which I think is similar to Crow Country. This is more... If this is PlayStation 1 era, this is PlayStation 2 era, which, you feel a bit of Fatal Frame in here, a lot of Silent Hill in this game. You feel a lot of those influences. I felt very frustrated by this game's environments and the map specifically. Like, the map in this game, if you look at Silent Hill back in the 90s, when you looked around the map and you found a locked door, there would be like doors that you just straight up can't go through and there'd be a scribble. And then there'd be a locked door, which would usually have like a line through it to say, hey, there is a way to get through this door. You just don't have it yet. Hollowbody just has like red door and not red door. And it doesn't show you if the red door is red because you don't have the puzzle item. If it's a key, like a locked door that you can use a key to go through, it doesn't have that extra icon in there to just make the map a little bit more legible. And especially in the apartment, at the beginning of the game, there is like 3 levels of the apartment that are all the same, exactly the same layout, with a hallway and a hallway in the middle and then another hallway. And you don't know what floor you're on unless you pay really close attention to the map. Everything looks very, very samey, and it just... I feel like I'm lost, but not in a fun, I'm exploring lost. I'm not getting lost in the game. I'm just straight up lost, and I'm not enjoying myself, exploration-wise. And then it gets a bit better when you get out into the streets. I guess combat starts to rear its ugly head, where combat is not very compelling or fun. And I know it's not the point, but I do like it when I feel like the stress of fighting something. But I never felt the stress of fighting anything in Hollowbody. And also, I got to the point where you get to like you get into a church which had a puzzle that I thought was kind of nice. There was a church at the end of like the street segment which had a puzzle that was kind of nice to get into the underground of the church. And then underground the church, you're in a sewer system, and the sewer system's another fucking maze. And I'm just like, all right, that's it. And I just got frustrated and I stopped. So I didn't finish Hollowbody. I didn't want to get lost again, and I wasn't having fun being lost in this game like I would with a game that has a bit more compelling exploration. I'm going to put this one in C tier. Be like, here. Okay, at Dead of Night. This is a first-person, I guess, point and click FMV horror game. And it's like, I have a lot of affection for the FMV games of old, of the 90s. And it was kind of cool to see that done again, but like with a little bit more production value. And this game had, I think, the most jump scary moments, like the most moments. You know what a jump scare is. You're not a moron. I'm sorry. And it had some fun puzzles, I guess. But it's really kind of like the puzzle is mainly get to the ghost, find out where the ghost is, and then find out what the ghost needs to progress its story. And then on the way, you're being hunted by Jimmy, the proprietor of the hotel that you are in. Has a second personality, and he's hunting you with his naughty boy personality. And there's like kind of a supernatural edge to it. There are ghosts in this game. There is supernaturals to this slasher kind of story that you're playing through. I did not finish this game. I got to the end where you need to go and rescue all of your mates and then get out of the hotel without getting bopped by Jimmy. And I was like, I can't be bothered. I tried once or twice and like, nah, I'm good. But up until that point, I enjoyed the experience of At Dead of Night. I enjoyed it. I think here is fine because it's kind of like, it's good but not great. And I had a fun. This was one of those games that was definitely held up by chat. Like I had a really good time with you guys. We had a lot of fun laughing about some of the more campy moments and getting all spooked together. The fun stuff about horror games where you're with a bunch of people and you're getting along and you're just having you're all like, woo, oh yeah, like watching having a horror movie viewing night sleepover kind of thing. Silent Hill 2 Remake. Gonna put it in the middle while I talk about it. Silent Hill 2 Remake. Konami's back to making video games again. Oh my god. But kind of not really, because they paid Bloober to do it. You know, if you're keeping up with gaming news, a lot of you probably knew that a lot of the discourse around this was pretty negative at the beginning, before it got released, because Bloober team had made games that were, shall we say, divisive. Personally, in my experience, haven't enjoyed any of Bloober's games. And to give Bloober credit, this is definitely my favorite Bloober game so far. Unfortunately, is Unreal Engine 5, so once again, didn't perform very well. It was pretty low frame rate for me in a lot of areas. So performance-wise, it wasn't great on my PC, but I did find it fun. I enjoyed the new combat mechanic for the most part. A big negative for this game is the camera. The camera sucks in this game. If you're pressed up against a wall, you can't see what the hell's going on. If you're backed into a corner, it's more... Instead of being terrified about having nowhere to run, I'm angry because I can't see shit. Because I'm inside of James's butthole again, or I'm inside of his neck and his shoulder, and I can't see anything because they're not making anything invisible for me to see through to the thing that I need to see, which is the enemy and its movesets. One thing that I really liked about Silent Hill 2 Remake that I thought added a lot to the spookiness was what they did with the mannequin enemy. They made the mannequin enemy an enemy that would hide and it wouldn't set off your radios static. And I love that. I love that it was basically the jump scare enemy. It would be hidden around a corner or hidden under a table, and you'd just be like, you know, you'd be checking corners, being really vigilant, and then it would like pop out from behind a bookshelf, and you're like, oh god! And it just, every time that happened, I'm like, woo, you know, I'm having fun in this scary game, and I'm already tense because of the environments and stuff. I do think that this game overstayed its welcome. It went for way too long, and while I would rather play this than the original Silent Hill 2. I'm also not as big a Silent Hill 2 fan as a lot of people are. Like, for some people, Silent Hill 2 is like their religion. I definitely don't feel that way. Like, I like Silent Hill 2, but I prefer Resident Evil over Silent Hill. I like I like psychological horror, and I liked the darkness and the sadness of Silent Hill 2 as a very cool story. And by cool, I mean, you know, sad. You feel it. You feel the story of Silent Hill 2. And I definitely felt it still in the remake. I know some people think that the performances are worse or certain characters are not done anywhere near as well as the original. I mean, I agree here and there, but I think that in a game that really needs good performances and really needs to tell the story, I think they did good enough to make me feel stuff. I felt things while playing this game, but I did feel like it dragged on. Overall, though, really enjoyed it. I'm going to put it bottom of A tier. I would replay this when I have the hard drive space and maybe a better CPU. All right, let's move on. Let's try and get a little bit faster here. Conscript, another horror game. This one, I think, was once again developed by one person, so another indie horror game, and this one was more like top-down. This is a game very similar to Crow Country in that I think that if you enjoyed old survival horror games where you're limited by inventory space and you need to get from A to B, and you feel that like, oh, that huge sigh of relief when you find a safe room with a stash that you can like finally like replenish your resources and that kind of thing. It has all of that in it, but it is, and I feel like I've been saying this a lot today. It is way too long, and the enemies feel very like negatives. I'm gonna get the negatives out of the road because I overall feel good about this game. The game is way too long, and the enemies feel really stupid. Like you're shining a flashlight down a hallway, or you walk straight past them, and you're like, they should have seen me there, and they don't see you. Like they feel very dumb, I guess. So that it makes them not that scary. And it's a horror game, so I'm, you know, not feeling much tension. I'm feeling more tension in that I'm running low on ammo, rather than I'm like, oh no, exploring this area is going to be really rough. There were some areas where it was dark, where you just basically, you know, you have your flashlight and you're running low on battery. That felt like pretty tense. I have not finished this game yet, but I enjoyed it mostly until I got kind of like, I'm like, all right, I'm getting kind of like, I've seen everything this game has to offer. The entire enemy roster, I've seen it already, and then it's gone for another 4 hours, and I just haven't seen anything new. Like, there's a new flamethrower enemy, but other than that, it really just is starting to overstay its welcome, and I have not finished this game yet. I did enjoy it more than these games, and I put it in the middle of B tier. I'll put it over here. It took you 16 hours to beat first try. See, and that for me is just way too long for a survival horror game. And I think that this game pushes that too. Like, I think this is more like a 12-hour experience, but I still think it should be more like 8, you know? Like, the stuff that they added, I don't think makes the game better. It just makes it longer. And Conscript, I think, could have been a much more tighter experience. A lot less backtracking. Maybe make the areas smaller. Maybe make like the map areas a little bit smaller, a little bit more constricted, a little bit less maze-like. Would have made this a quicker... You'd be going from chapter to chapter a lot faster, I think. I'm on Observation Duty 7. This game was carried super hard by chat. I'm putting it up in A tier already. Like, straight to A tier chat. I'm on Observation Duty 7. I am, for some reason, just a massive sucker for the I'm on Observation Duty games, and this one was hard carried by the fact that I streamed this and that it felt like we were playing it together. It had the memes and the references from the original games. Huge Man was in there. We had some new, I guess, antagonists, enemies, and scary things to happen. I had some really good spooks playing this game. This game was almost as jump scary as this game. Had some great jump scare. Whoops. Definitely not S tier. This game had some great jump scares in it, and it felt really satisfying to get through a level. Like that feeling of getting through on the other side, that last, you know, when you're going from 5 a.m. to 6 a.m., it's a minute, it's not an hour, but when you're going from 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. to the win condition, and it plays that music and that tension, and you're like, oh shit, and you're like finding the anomalies, and and chat's like, over there, and it felt like a communal good time. And once again, I just really had a great time playing with this with you guys. And it was super satisfying to just click on anomalies and to get through the other side. And it had some very good, very difficult levels as well. I think difficulty in this game was really well balanced. It was pretty tough. Some very cheeky anomalies that are very well hidden. But luckily I had a few Noahs to help me out. Really enjoyed this. Shadows of Doubt. Shadows of Doubt is the detective game. I'm going to chuck it in B tier while I talk about it. This is a voxel game that has a very like blocky and definitely going to be a bit of a jarring art style for people that you know, are put off by games that don't have, like, I guess, modern graphics. You know, if graphically a game needs to look a certain way, you're probably gonna find this game like a little bit abrasive. But I found this game to be quite fun. It was very satisfying to find the clue and to finally get that connection to the killer and to have that eureka, I have them moment. You know what I mean? For those that don't know, this game is basically a random generated detective sim where you have a murder or a crime of some variety. It could be a shooting, it could be a stabbing, it could be a poisoning, but there's generally some kind of murder, and you need to find the killer by, you know, sneaking into that apartment somehow, because there's usually, you know, enforcers around that won't let you on the crime scene because you're a private eye, and you got to get past them. You got to get into the apartment. You got to collect as many clues as you can while building up your bank as well, because you need to buy the items to arrest people, to keep your hunger and thirst levels. You know, there's a little bit of, you know, hunger, and there's a little bit of simulation stuff to manage there. And I actually think this game, like I was talking about the graphics being a little bit jarring for some people, I actually think this game looked gorgeous. I think it had some really cool lighting. It has a very Blade Runner-y vibe to it. The music is very Blade Runner-y as well, and I'm a sucker for that Blade Runner aesthetic. So I had a really good time connecting the dots, literally and figuratively, in Shadows of Doubt. And this was a game that I think was fun for the community as well. Like, we all had a good time playing this game together. I would say that it would probably be high B tier. Like, it wasn't like it wasn't as exciting and compelling as these games for me, but it definitely was fun. And while I'm done playing it, I would probably play it again sometime in the future after giving it a little bit of space. You know, maybe a year or two, might revisit this game and see where it's at. I think with a lot more patches, or even with a sequel, I would love to revisit this world and play this kind of game again. It is that kind of game where you're like, I've got an hour to spare. I'm going to just load up my Shadows of Doubt save and just do a case real quick. That'll be a fun hour, you know, or two. You know, sometimes they're very, very hard. They're very, very hard. But that is the game. You know, have a murderer, find the murderer, cuff the murderer, and wait till the next murder. All right, Soul Reaver 2. So Soul Reaver 2 is an old game, but it's been remastered very recently. I'm going to put it in B tier. So just check it up there. And I'm gonna resize this thing real quick. Yeah. All right. The Soul Reaver 1 and 2 have been remastered recently. So if you're a fan of those games, go check that out. I am a fan of Soul Reaver 1. So at least I was when I was a kid. I played it in the late 90s when I was still living with my parents. And I enjoyed Soul Reaver 1 back then. And I still find it okay. Like, it's still good. I liked it. But the camera was really rough in Soul Reaver 1. And I initially, as a kid, when I played Soul Reaver 2, I only played it for a little bit and then stopped, and I had zero memory of it. So it's basically playing the game again for a fresh experience when I played the remake. And Soul Reaver 2 has continued the trend of having an incredibly bad camera. Its combat is changed, but they've added some complexity to the combat, but I don't like any of the changes so far. I'm only a few hours in on Soul Reaver 2, but I don't think that the combat has been improved. I don't like what they did with the Soul Reaver itself, the weapon that is bound to your body. I don't like what they did with the Soul Reaver itself. I don't like its change. Don't even think I've done a boss fight. Maybe I have. I don't know. I don't remember. But specifically the beginning of the game, you're in like a swamp area, and the swamp is just terrible. It's just not very appealing. It's not a fun place to explore. I don't like the saving system in 2 versus 1. Like in 2, it has like a checkpoint system, and in 1, it's more like you can save anytime and reload, and anytime you reload 1, you go back to like the main sort of hub abyss area. And I just feel like everything in Soul Reaver 2 is worse than 1. The music I don't like as much. The music in 1 has like this really sick bop. Like the theme song of Soul Reaver 1 is so cool, and some of the big moments when that theme kicks in, it's like really hype. And Soul Reaver is definitely like a puzzle game. And Soul Reaver 2, I did have fun in the first dungeon at the end of the swamp when you get to like the first dungeon and you start doing some puzzles. I did find that pretty fun. But like my reward was like, you now have the dark version of the Soul Reaver, and I don't feel like anything's changed. And then it's like, now go to this other part of the swamp, and I'm back in the swamp again, and I'm lost in the swamp, and I'm just like, oh, this fucking sucks. And it really sucks when you're swimming. So when you're underwater in Soul Reaver 2, and to a lesser extent 1, the underwater swimming controls and the camera is just like awful. Like I want to puke when I'm underwater. It's so bad. And there is just so much exposition. In 1, it felt a lot snappier, and I replayed 1 very recently, so I have a good memory of it. In 1, it felt a lot more snappier and a lot more concise, and yes, there were cutscenes with very flowery dialogue, and the voice acting is very, very good in 1 and 2. I love those voice actors. But in 2, there is just so much exposition and so much talking and cutscenes with like stuff that you feel like you're not supposed to skip it because it's important, and the story is the main reason we're here, and that's the main reason people care about the Legacy of Kain series. And I'm just like, oh, I just want to get back to it and sort this swamp out. And I'm just still in the swamp, man. I've done the dungeon. I got the black Soul Reaver, and I'm just like, I don't want to go back in the water. I don't want to go swimming again. And I'm just done. So this one is going down here. There was one really cool moment, a speech between Raziel and Kain in front of the Pillars of Nosgoth. And some of the very iconic moments in the Raziel and Kain storyline were in that cutscene, one of many cutscenes. And it just feels like every time you walk into a new room, they've all got to wax lyrical about what the hell's going on, and you just got to sit there and listen to them talk, and it's just, I just got fed up with it. But I enjoyed Legacy of Kain, Blood Omen, and I enjoyed Soul Reaver. And I enjoyed Soul Reaver again, even though the camera really, really pissed me off in Soul Reaver 1. I mainly still enjoyed doing the puzzles. Do you like sliding blocks? Because if you like sliding blocks and you like sliding block puzzles, Soul Reaver 1 is your game. Ashes 2063. This was a Doom 2 mod repack, which basically it's in like the Doom engine, but it is a completely different game. It has a lot of big sprawling open areas, and you could see that the developer was starting to get more and more I guess confident with their levels, and with making it a little bit more like they're trying to make this world feel like lived in. The guns felt good, sounded good, and fighting enemies felt good and sounded good. Enemy variety was not super great, but good enough, because it's, you know, not a super long game. But there is like a chapter 2 to this that I found to be a little bit bloated. And that was the one that was a little bit more open, where you get your hog, you know, and you get to ride your mutant dog around. I found this game mostly fun, but still kind of middle-ish. I would say it'd be like here, probably. Probably here. The higher end of B. Stalker GAMMA. Stalker GAMMA, put it in B while we talk about it. Stalker GAMMA is another mod repack similar to Ashes 2063. It is a reimagining and basically a new game in the Stalker 1 universe, or I guess this is Stalker universe. It's Call of Pripyat and the Anomaly mod, but also a mod on top of a mod. It's a mod of another mod. And I normally wouldn't put mods in here, but it kind of really changed the game to be a new experience. A lot of it has, you know, there's stuff that you find familiar. There's the zones and where they're placed in the map are familiar to you. Cordon and the swamps, they're all very familiar, but the game itself has changed so much. This game is, I'm going to put it up here in the bottom of A. I found this a lot more fun and very immersive than some of the games that were trying to be immersion games. This game was way more immersive and more fun for me. And the survival part of it I found to be, you know, it existed, but it wasn't annoying. It didn't pop up so often that I was annoyed by it. It's very still, it still has that jank to it, you know, and there's just something about the Stalker games and the Stalker universe that I find charming. Like, yes, it's janky, yes, it's broken, but it's charming and it's addictive, and I want to keep exploring this world, and I want to push forward and get to the, you know, the center of the zone, to the north of the zone. I want to keep pushing forward and getting far up and continuing to upgrade my stuff. It definitely had a very abrasive and uncomfortable start, because there is a lot to know about this game. There's a big knowledge ceiling, like not so much a skill ceiling. Aiming and shooting is like not the important part about Stalker. The most important part about Stalker is game knowledge. Similar to Escape from Tarkov, like you can aim and click on heads and that helps, but what really helps is knowing the map and knowing what guns are good and how to work with guns, and, well, or rather what bullets are good. Bullets matter more than guns in Escape from Tarkov, and they matter a lot in Stalker as well, but you know, your repairing weapons and repairing armor and that kind of thing, I needed chat's help with that. And once I got it, I had a lot more fun. But up until that point, I was like, oh, I feel like I'm in the deep end over here. So it's not I would never recommend this be the first Stalker thing you play. Pacific Drive. This one was earlier in the year. I don't know why it's so deep in the list. I tried to do them in order of play, but I must have messed up. Pacific Drive I played in Q1 of 2024. Pacific Drive is... it's funny that we just finished talking about Stalker, because this game is basically... you're in an exclusion zone similar to Stalker with anomalies and stuff everywhere. But they're new anomalies that I haven't seen before. They're very, very different. And they behave very differently. And also, you're not a dude in a gas mask with a gun. You are a guy in a car. And your car is a sci-fi soul-bound vehicle that you have to maintain. Like, the survival mechanic of this game is maintaining your car and keeping your car alive, I guess. You know, keeping it on the road, going out as far as you can into the exclusion zone, completing objectives, collecting important upgrade items, and then coming back to the garage. And I know that I finished saying that, you know, games like Subnautica, where you have to get a thing to unlock another thing, and then you have like your sort of your, I guess, build tree. Those games I don't find very compelling. But Pacific Drive, while it technically had that, it was very light on that. Like, there were only, I think, like 2 or 3 different tech levels, and you don't need to go to the top tech level to finish the game. The story, for me, might as well not have existed. I didn't really follow it much. There was a lot of exposition between different characters talking to each other. It really was all about just trying to maintain my car and avoid anomalies, and just enjoying that game loop of getting out of the car, exploring, collecting some stuff, getting back in the car, and just trying to keep that thing on the road while avoiding all the anomalies, which got more and more intense and more interesting as you went through. I really enjoyed Pacific Drive. It, unfortunately, I think is another Unity engine game and didn't run very well. I had some big frame rate problems in this game, which is the biggest knock to it. I am going to put it up here with Gamma. I think I found this game very, very fun, and the music was great, and the survival mechanic in this game was great as well. You're not managing hunger and thirst and radiation levels. You are managing your car, its wheels, its panels, its various sci-fi devices that you have to put on the car to accomplish different things. Floodlights, lamps, that kind of thing. Your different tools, your sci-fi tools that you're using to extract resources. I remember when Streamer realized he was only using one of the tier 5, one of the like 5 upgrade tabs. I know, I didn't even know that I could upgrade my stuff. Like I thought that there was only one upgrade tree until I looked at the tabs at the top, and I'm like, oh, and there were all these things that I could have unlocked hours ago, and I completely missed them. And that just goes to show you that you don't really have to bother with it if you don't have to. Like I was still progressing in Pacific Drive without getting, you know, the higher tier armor and the higher tier batteries and the higher tier fuel tanks and engines and whatever. I don't even think I ever upgraded the engine. You know, there's different engines and stuff to make the car run faster and be more fuel efficient, and I don't think I ever upgraded it. Zero Sievert. This is basically top-down 2D Tarkov with a little bit of Stalker in there as well. So we're in the anomaly block. We'll call it the anomaly block. So Zero Sievert is a 2-dimensional Tarkov with a lot less punishment for dying. You don't lose all of your stuff, but you can do permadeath, which I found really fun. I found it a little bit more boring when you could just kind of respawn. All you do is like have to go back to your home base and then get back out there. I guess it's going to be a lot more fun for you if you enjoy Escape from Tarkovs, where you drop down to the same map and the map is going to be very, very similar. In Zero Sievert, it actually changes a bit. In Tarkov, it's literally the same map every time, but the things in that map will change. Sometimes there's a boss, sometimes there's not. Sometimes there's a group of bandits over here, sometimes there's not. Sometimes there's gonna be different players around. Like that's what makes every raid interesting for people in Escape from Tarkov. And for Zero Sievert, the map actually does change a bit. Like Igor's house will move around in the forest. That's like one of the quest objectives. Now, so Zero Sievert is 2D Tarkov, basically 2D Stalker. You have anomalies and that sort of thing to worry about. So if you like those games, Zero Sievert will be fun for you. I liked it, but it is, I don't think, better than Escape from Tarkov for me, and it is not better than Stalker for me, but it is cool and it is addictive, and I don't know where I would put it. You still have to manage things like you would normally have. You got a hideout to manage. You've got weapons to try and keep their durability up, your armor and that sort of thing. You've got your hunger, thirst, radiation levels similar to Stalker to worry about. I think I liked it more than Dead of Night, but still kind of like middle-ish. So maybe like that. Actually, I liked it. Yeah, like here, I think. Yeah, I feel good about that. I'll leave it there. If you like those games, you know what I'm talking about. It is that, but 2-dimensional and pixel art. Very, very fun. Check it out if you like those games. I do like those games. Considering we're in the anomaly block, let's talk about Stalker 2. Famously has released to very mixed response. A lot of people are praising how the game looks and not praising how the game runs. Its bugginess, its glitchiness. Certainly the reviewers that got early codes for Stalker 2 played like a way worse version of the game. It's better now. And apparently the A-Life, which is the AI system, like the thing that makes it feel like a lived-in world that exists in Stalker Gamma, you know, roaming packs of dudes just fighting mutants out in the wilderness and the world moving and changing without you seeing it happening. It's just kind of happening in the background. That happens in this game. And in Stalker 2, when it got released, it didn't really have that. There were kind of like scripted events that were fun and cool, and things were always in the same place all the time. So it didn't feel like as much of an alive world, which for me was the most important thing, along with performance. But I think that the game needs a lot of work. It needs another 6 months in the oven. But this game is going to be great when it's done. I don't know if it'll ever be done, but let's just say that like I think that after like 6-12 months of this game being worked on, I think that it's going to be glorious. Right now, I'm not very interested in checking it out. I'm going to give it a little bit of time. I'm happy to wait. I think this game definitely got released undercooked and is still cooking. So keen to see what happens with Stalker 2. Performance is really letting me down with a lot of AAA games. Specifically Unreal Engine 5 I have a lot of trouble with. We're going to dive back into the horror block real quick and talk about Still Wakes the Deep. Still Wakes the Deep is like purely a story game. There is technically puzzles in it, but it is mainly a story game. But the originality of, I guess, the threat, the cosmic horror threat. You know, I'm a sucker for cosmic horror, and I love a good cosmic horror story. The performances of everyone involved in this game was brilliant. I really felt like the characters were very like alive and immersive, and the story was, it was heartbreaking. And considering like, you know, when I play games, I care a lot more about gameplay. When I was like, oh, this is just a story game, I put the gameplay aside and just enjoyed the story, because gameplay-wise, there's not a whole lot. There's some stealth segments and there's some puzzles, but it's really kind of a story game. But the story was compelling enough, the performances were compelling enough, and the game, the design of the cosmic horror in this game was so, you know, real and terrifying, and the sound design and everything was so good that it felt like I was inside of a good horror movie. And when it ended, I'm not ashamed to say it was a little bit like it hit hard. You know, it was like, oh man, I empathized with the main character that was very much like a, you know, running away from the real world, basically. But I don't want to spoil it. I want to say that if you want a story game and you're not shy playing a horror game, this is a pretty spooky but very well done story. As a video game, not you know, it's not really anything to write home about, but felt like watching a good horror movie, you know. Batman Arkham Origins. We did a playthrough of Batman Arkham Asylum, and we did a playthrough of Arkham City, but I have played and finished those games before, so they're not on this list. This game I have not played and finished. Arkham Origins. Arkham Origins, to me, I played it because it's like it's a Christmas Arkham game, and I thought, hey, 'tis the season. But unfortunately, I felt like it was worse in every way compared to Arkham City. I preferred Arkham City in every single way compared to Origins. There's nothing about Origins that I liked more than Arkham City, and it felt like it was just made to make another Batman game. It didn't really feel like it moved anything forward for me. That, like, a big asterisk, I only played this game for, I think, one stream. So I got like 5-6 hours in. There were things like invisible walls out in their city, which felt weird because I'm like, I should be able to go to the roof of this building and I can't because they just decided to put an invisible wall in front of it, which felt weird. It was kind of buggy and broken in some parts as well. It just felt like a worse version of earlier games in the series. I mean, it's enjoyable. Like, I like the combat. That's the thing. Like, it's just, it is those games, but just not better. So I'm like, why would I play this over Arkham City or Asylum? And I can't answer that question. I don't know why I would play this over Arkham City or Asylum. I would rather play those games. So, bottom of C. Didn't really enjoy this game. Actually, I liked it more than those. So put it here, middle high C. And the UI was another thing I really didn't enjoy. The UI was like, wait, did I do something? Did I level up? I don't know. It was kind of like a very boring when you were in the level up systems or in the menus. No Kevin Conroy or Mark Hamill. Yeah, but you know, the guy doing a Kevin Conroy impersonation I thought was pretty good. And I think Troy Baker's did Joker. I think Troy Baker's great. I'm going to be talking about him again later in this list. I didn't mind the vocal performances. It just felt like the B team was making this game, which I think literally is the case. If I'm mistaken, please correct me. Teardown! Teardown is similar to Shadows of Doubt. It's like a voxel game, but with full environmental destruction. And this is a puzzle game where you have to destroy stuff and complete objectives before a timer completes. So you need to kind of... It's like a heist game with full environmental destruction. Very good physics as well. Not realistic, but like immersive, I guess. Like it felt cool to blow stuff up in this game. This game was super fun, and it was incredibly satisfying to like line up all of these. You know, you set up your path and you create your route, and then you go through that route and you just quickly like and just like planting the bomb on the roof and having the safe drop and then grabbing it and then dragging it along and then dropping it into a boat that you've pre-parked already, and just it's like setting up like an Ocean's 11 heist with full environmental destruction. Like it is essentially a puzzle game, but very, very satisfying and really, really, really fun. I'm gonna put that like up here. Big A tier game, strong A tier game. In fact, I'm gonna put it here. That's knocking on the door of S. I might bump it up to S, but that's knocking on the door. Like this game is so fun, and it was fun to play with chat as well. You can really express yourself in so many different ways in this game. There are 1,000 different ways to play it and to get the job done. Unlike Angerfoot, you can get all of the objectives in one run. Even though they feel impossible, it can be done. Angerfoot, I think, is literally impossible. But in this one, you can absolutely get all of the optional objectives along with the primary objectives in one run. And that's the whole point of this game. You only have one run to do those things. Okay, Forgive Me Father 2. I'm just going to grab this one here, just get it out the road. Forgive Me Father 2, putting it in B tier while I talk about it. Forgive Me Father 2 is Unreal Engine 5, so straight away, not very good performance. The level up mechanics, like the weapon modification mechanics using the resources that you found, I liked playing around with, but wasn't like super compelling, I guess. It is very much like Forgive Me Father 1 in that there is a very similar enemy roster. There definitely are new enemies. They have like a hub world that you return to, like an asylum that you return to in Forgive Me Father 2 to do your you know, to play like a kind of a baseball mini game that I don't think has any use whatsoever. There's no reward or anything that I could find. And you have your upgrades, your weapon upgrades and your character upgrades, your character loadout skills and that kind of thing are all activatable and equipable in the hub. Unfortunately, once you start a mission, you can't change your loadout, and you need to restart that whole mission to change your loadout. And if you go back to the hub, that mission is over. Like if you go in the menu and you click return to hub instead of resume game by accident, they're right next to each other in the menu, you are going back to the hub and that mission is over. Like you have lost your progress and you will need to start again. And these missions are not short in Forgive Me Father 2. They're very similar to Forgive Me Father 1. I enjoyed the music a lot. I like the Lovecraftianness of it all. I think I've said Lovecraftian like 69 times in this one broadcast. But it is a fun FPS until it isn't. It once again overstays its welcome. When I got to the mushroom low gravity area, I was just super done with it. I was tired of it. I was sick of it. The game performed worse than Forgive Me Father 1, and that is very likely because of Unreal Engine 5, which I struggle with. And I think developers are getting better at using it. I'm looking forward to what Unreal Engine 5 is like when people get better at using it in like a few years' time. But right now, Unreal Engine 5 is like kind of like a... I get worried if a game's coming out on Unreal Engine 5 in regards to my prospects of being able to run it. Because I don't know what's going on with my PC, but I struggle with that engine. And I think developers are struggling with it too. So Forgive Me Father 2, I think, I don't know. I guess they're both here. I might actually gonna bring them down to the bottom of B. I'm bringing Forgive Me Father 1 and 2 down here. I didn't finish these games. I got fed up with them. Balatro! Game of the year for some people. This is another one of those indie titles that was solo developed. And this one was not only solo developed, but nearly won Game of the Year at the big awards. Keeley's award show, whatever it's called. I don't know what it's called. I really could not give a shit about what it's actually... I think it's just the Game Awards. I think the Game Awards or PC Game Awards or something. So Balatro was a contender, and I think that's great. It's good. It's great to see some indie games getting some love. And this game definitely got a lot of love. I think it's a very cool... It's a poker roguelike. It's hard to describe without having, you know, without you getting your hands on it and playing it, because it was described to me as a poker roguelike as well. And I'm like, how does that work? And it wasn't until I played it, I'm like, oh yeah, I get it. So you have jokers that are modifiers, and you have scores based on the hands that you have, and also the modifiers that you have. So the jokers modify your scores, and you can level up the different hands. So if you get a two of a kind, your two of a kind will be a different base score based on your planet level, which links up to your hand, which is then modified by the joke. You can't describe this game, all right? You have to play it. But it's a score attack game. There are boss fights where you have like a negative modifier that kind of hamstrings you a little bit to try and get to the score in a limited number of hands. Very Moorish, very addictive, and really, really well made. I'm going to put this in here. There. Quake 4. Quake 4. All right, so this Quake 4 is very similar to Soul Reaver in that I played this many, many years ago. I played this 20 years ago for the first time. Technically, I've played it before, but I only played it for... I didn't even get to Strongification in Quake 4 when I first played it, so I feel like I didn't really play the game. I didn't really play the game until this year, where I forced myself to finish Quake 4. It is the same engine as Doom 3, so it has that atmospheric vibe to it. It is a very atmospheric game. Lots of dark hallways, strong lighting, slick-looking, greasy-looking enemies. Unfortunately, that is where my compliments for Quake 4 kind of end. Everything about Quake 4 apart from the environments and the engine and just enjoying it, it was like a less fun Doom 3. Quake 4, I found a lot of the engagements kind of forgettable. And a lot of this game, I think, is just forgettable for me. Strogification moment, obviously very memorable, but that's basically it. And I kind of remember the final boss. But this game, yeah. I unfortunately will have to chuck it in D. Just really, I can't see myself ever wanting to play Quake 4 ever again. And while I was playing it, I was kind of just waiting for it to be over. Also, reloading in a Quake game, playing Quake and hitting reload was really annoying. Didn't feel like Quake at all to me. So it just felt like it was they just chucked Quake 4 on the name, and it just wasn't Quake for me. As someone that loves Quake 1, 3, and to a lesser extent 2. Bears in Space. This one is from earlier in the year, and this one was another, along with Pacific Drive, this one was a front runner for my favorite game of the year at the time when I played it. This game is just a fun FPS. While it might be like a little bit on the long side, there were so many moments in Bears of Space that made me laugh. So many memorable moments as well of the, like, from the comedy side of things. Floppy D, the Flop Disket, the Limp Bizkit robot band. Just, oh my God. Mwah. Bears in Space was great. Really, really fun. Good weapons, very original. I think the laughs land. Its comedy is almost always hitting. Comedy is very subjective. Games in general are very subjective. You combine the two together, it's a recipe for potentially disaster. But for this one, this recipe tastes good. And it is going into A tier. And it is not at the bottom of A tier. This game is up here. Probably here. Bears in Space is a real fun game. And I am going to be replaying it soon, actually. It was one of the Doomathon goals, was to replay Bears in Space, so I'm looking forward to this one. This will be coming soon, 2025. We're going to replay Bears in Space. Daikatana! I've technically played this game for like maybe 30 minutes when I was a kid, didn't get very far, and then we went and watched a movie at the cinema instead when we rented this game from the video shop. This was very disappointing back in the early I think it was in 2000 or 99 that this game first came out. My mates played it when we were young teens, and we were just like, yeah, nah, and we went and watched a movie. We stopped playing video game. And then I forced myself to play through it. We patched to 1.3. I played with followers on, which I wish I didn't, because your AI companions really make this game worse. They are the frustrating thing that slows everything down. They bug up, they bug out, they get stuck. One time I had Superfly stuck inside of a hole, and I had to reload from an earlier checkpoint just to get him out of that hole. They thankfully had invulnerability, so in 1.3, in the fan patch 1.3, a lot of improvements have been made, but not enough to make this a fun game. Daikatana was a real slog. And the only thing I really liked about Daikatana was, I think chapter 2 was kind of fun, like when you go into like the ancient, probably ancient Greece, because you also get like the Poseidon's fork and that sort of shit. That chapter was kind of fun. Everything else was a massive slog, and I cannot believe what they decided to do with the first introduction of the game. Let's start in a swamp with loud buzzing insects in a very green, ugly environment, and you're going to be here for a while. That's how they introduce in Daikatana. And then like the whole first chapter was a real slog, and I if I wasn't streaming it and I wasn't forcing myself to get to the end, I would have tapped out probably about where I did when I was 15. But I forced myself to get to the end. It was overall quite horrible. I'm going to put it down here. And there. The only reason this isn't the bottom is because it made me laugh. I had some funny moments, but I would put this on the bottom otherwise. The legends are true about Daikatana. There is almost nothing redeeming about it except for the memory, and the broken stuff sometimes makes you laugh. I can't go anywhere without my buddy Superfly. Here's one I played offline. Wild Bastards. This is made by the same people that made Void Bastards. This is a roguelike game. It's about trying to get as far as you can without losing your squad, your team. You unlock more and more team that have different play styles. Each one of them play very differently. They all have their own abilities, their own weapons, and you get more and more complex enemies as time goes on. But it's very much like it's a tactical shooter, you know? It's all about tacticals and setting things up and playing carefully and slowly while trying to get to the end. Very similar to Void Bastards in that way. Just a resource management, survival, roguelike kind of game. I didn't play a lot of it. I played like maybe 5 or 6 hours of it. I played it offline. I was tempted to put it as a stream game, but I ended up not doing it because I thought it wouldn't be that fun for you guys to watch. Down here, I think. It, I don't know, like right about here, maybe. Like, it's not bad, and I could probably get more into it the more I played it, but I just felt like it hadn't grabbed me yet in the 6 or so hours that I played it. So technically, I played this, technically. Art style's cool. It has a lot of that humor that's similar from Void Bastards. You know, over-the-top characters. Gunplay kind of weak. Enemies kind of dumb. Frustrating in parts. But when it gels, it gels. Can be satisfying when you win. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. I kept calling it Golden Circle for some reason. I don't know why. Indiana Jones and the Golden Circle. Weirdly, like, there is a lot more of a video game here than Still Wakes the Deep. But it feels similar in several ways. So to talk about the game real quick, it as a game, not that strong. Its combat is fine, but not great. You got, you know, the whip can be fun to use in combat and traversal. The fist fighting is, you know, it's pretty fine once you get it. It's pretty straightforward. The gunplay is incredibly bad. I'm getting the negatives out of the way because overall I feel positive about this game, so I'm just spoilers. They decentivize you using weapons to an extreme degree. I actually think that they've overtuned how bad guns are, or undertuned, however you want to describe it. Guns are way too bad. They are too awful to use in this game. They should be better than they are, I think, so that you have a different play style. Because if you shoot a gun in this game, you have fucked up. That is objectively the bad idea. That is not an option. Don't do that. You are absolutely not going to like the results of firing a gun in Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. So it felt like you were very much guided, and by guided I mean pushed, shoved even in the direction of needing to play melee stealth. It always felt weird to be like, ooh, I got this gun and it's a rifle, and then the first thing I did was turn it around and turn it into a club because it was way more useful as a club. That felt strange. But anyway, some pretty cool puzzles in the Great Circle. But the real strength of this game is similar to Still Wakes the Deep. It is the story and the feeling of being inside of an Indiana Jones movie. It felt like I was watching, or rather, I guess, playing an interactive Indiana Jones movie. And the performances of Troy Baker, you know, his Harrison Ford is pretty incredible. The John Williams-ness, you know, we're talking about Jedi Fallen Order, rather, and how I can't imagine playing this game without that sweeping, adventurous, orchestral John Williams-esque score. Same deal with this game. I couldn't play this game in streamer mode. I had to play it with the soundtrack on because it just adds so much. I'm a massive fan of the first 3 Indiana Jones films, and I love that my fandom of this game carried it pretty hard, to be honest. So normally I'm pretty resistant to nostalgia, but I think my fandom carried this game super hard. My love of the musical motifs, the sound effects. There's a Wilhelm scream in this game, which I loved and clapped and smiled and laughed at, but it's basically doing the same thing as, like, you know, it's basically fan service. They put the Wilhelm scream and they put the wet kind of crack sound of the punch sound effect in Indiana Jones movies in the game as well, just to be like, this is for the fans. This is for you guys. And I'm one of them. So it felt like playing a really good Indiana Jones movie. Like, definitely my not a complicated story, but a really great villain, and it was fun. And I liked doing side stuff and just, you know, ticking the boxes and finding relics and doing puzzles. That was primarily the parts of the game that I enjoyed. And also, rest in peace, Tony Todd. Yeah, like Tony Todd is the heavy in this story, and he's got a little bit of character growth as well as he goes through, and you learn a little bit more about him and his organization. I don't want to spoil anything, but yeah. The main villain of this game was awesome. Whoever performed the face capture and the voice capture for Emmerich Voss is just so great. It felt like a Bond villain. I don't know if I would ever replay this game, though, because, like, as a video game, it is just not that fun and not hard, not difficult. I think I would put it here, like near the top of B. I didn't like it more than Space Marine 2. I think I liked it a bit more than Angerfoot. I'll put it up here. Space Marine 2, I got recency bias to Space Marine 2 because it's my most recently played game. But I found this more satisfying than that. So I feel good about that. I feel good about that. Chat, we're down to our final 2 games. And let me tell you something. These games are kind of the reason why I decided to do a tier list, because I was upset about the fact that I couldn't put many games or any games in S tier. Until I started making a list, I was like, what could I possibly put in S tier? Turns out Monster Hunter World is one that surprised me, because I'm like, oh yeah, I technically didn't really play this game until this year. I didn't really give this game a real crack until this year. And I loved this game, so that's an S tier for sure. This one surprised me. Chat, Spider-Man Remastered. Spider-Man Remastered. A game from the PlayStation. There's a Sony game from, I think, 2018. And has a pretty outstanding PC port. This game, I played in that sweet spot where I had just finished doing my Arkham block of games. Like, I just finished playing the Arkham games. And it is basically Arkham City, but for Spider-Man. And in my opinion, this does everything that Arkham City does, but way better. And that's going to upset some people. The DC heads, they're going to be like, ah, no! My dark and brooding, super serious dark heroes are so much better! Fine. That's fine. Not coming at you for that. You like your DC better than Marvel? Like, this isn't a Marvel versus DC thing. This is a game. I'm talking about the game. I like Batman a lot as a character. I like his world. I like Spider-Man too. I like his... he's fun quippy to me. He's always been like that since the 60s. Spider-Man has been a quippy dude and a flippy dude. I was just surprised at how much fun I had in this game. The different gadgets that you could use, the things that I wanted in Black Myth Wukong, which I saw as like a kung fu playground. I'm like, oh, I'm going to be able to do so much cool stuff in this game. And then when I played, I'm like, not really. Not really. There's not a ton of cool stuff I can do in this game. This game, yes. This game, I have a utility belt of gadgets and fun sci-fi things to use to change how I want to engage with the enemies. There are so many different combos and moves that you can use in this game. You can swing kick things off the side of buildings. You can stick things to wall and instantly KO them. You can fire a web bomb that webs everything in a certain radius, and if they're near walls, will get stuck to walls and knocked out of the combat. You can launch enemies up into the air and combo them in the air to build up more meter, and then use that meter to do an instant takedown on something that's a real big threat, like a guy with a shield, or a guy with like a stun rod or something like that. Or if you build up enough meter, you can do a quick takedown on like a big heavy dude that you normally wouldn't be able to take down with 1 bar of super meter. So combat-wise, I just wanted to get more and more and more combat in this game. The relationship between Spider-Man and Dr. Octopus was actually really well done as well in this game. I don't want to spoil too much, but you know who Doc Ock is, Otto Octavius. A lot of you guys know who that is. But they work together at the start, and if you know who Dr. Octopus is, then you probably know where it goes. But it actually kind of landed for me. I was surprised by how much I cared about this superhero story, and it was really cool to fight bosses in this game. The boss fights were fun. Traversal was insane. Like you move so much faster in this game than any of the Arkham games by a large margin. You move so fast. I kind of liked doing the challenge trials as well. The combat challenges, not so much, but like the traversal challenges, going through the Superman 64 rings and that sort of thing. You know, I actually kind of liked trying to, you know, be as fast as possible and get from A to B as fast as possible. And I very rarely fast traveled because I actually just really enjoyed like swinging around New York. I really loved it. I really loved it. Actually, just it's in the wrong spot on S tier. This is absolutely S tier, and it is absolutely at the top of S tier so far, because very recently I played Spider-Man Miles Morales, which is also on PC, and is so Miles is a character that is introduced in this game. And if you've played, if you've watched Into the Spider-Verse or read comics, you know who Miles Morales is. But this game is like this game, but with even more cool shit. I'm spootering so hard right now. Like, dude, again, like I like Spider-Man, I would say that I'm a fan of the character, like, and the world, right, of Spider-Man. But I honestly, like, I'm not a huge Marvel fan. Like, I don't really care that much, but I like some of the movies, and I like the characters enough, you know? But I wouldn't say that I'm like a die-hard Spider-Man fan. I'm more of a fan of Batman than I am of Spider-Man as like a character and his carousel of villains. You know, I like this guy more than this guy. But these games, man, and we're talking about games today, chat. The satisfaction of building up your energy attack in this game, like you do a lot of the same stuff that you can do in this game, but in this game, the Venom attack, they called it, feels insanely satisfying to just build up that Venom and just go like zoom across and just do like a lightning punch into a dude and they just explode with energy, and then you do extra combo damage to them because they've got that debuff on them. You can do like stealth in both of these games is actually fun. It's something I don't normally enjoy, stealth stuff, but stealth in these games is really, really fun because it's fast. You can take down a room of dudes quickly in stealth if you're good and smart and you strategize correctly. And you see like a large shelf of like, you know, like a big tall shelf filled with like wine barrels. You can pull it over with your web and it just like crushes a bunch of dudes, and they like go over there to check out, and then you can set up like a trip mine to blow them up and wait, I'm still going. I'm trying to remember everything. In this game, stealth is even a little bit easier because you can actually go invisible later on in the game. You get the ability to turn invisible, and it doesn't last very long, but it's enough for you to disengage and retry the stealth encounter. In this game, if you fail stealth, it's over. You can't go back into stealth again. You have to basically leave the combat encounter and come back. This game, in the same combat encounter, you can try and escape. It doesn't always work, but if you're fast enough and you have camouflage available, you can go invisible and re-engage stealth and start to approach it in a stealth way again. I like the combo system in this game a little bit more. You get a takedown every 15 combo. Like every time you hit a 15 combo, you get a takedown, and you can bank up takedowns. Whereas this one, it used meter. In this game, the meter that you build up is your Venom attack, which is your lightning punch ability. Traversal, once again, still awesome. And once again, traversal improved in using the lightning abilities that Miles Morales has. You can just basically move even faster from one point to another. You can zap like horizontally through the air. You can launch yourself up into the air using Venom meter to just you know, get yourself an incredible amount of height and to increase your speed while you're whipping around. There's less gadgets in Miles Morales. I 100%ed this game because of how much I enjoyed it and how much I just wanted more and more combat. I wanted more and more traversal, more and more combat, and when it ended, I was sad. This game, I have not 100%ed yet. I haven't even finished this game yet. I'm still playing it. I haven't played it in a few days. It's just this dialed up to 11, but it feels like it's going to be a fair bit shorter. Like, it says that I'm 50% done with this game, and I think I've played it for like a quarter of the amount of time that I played this. So it feels like this is probably a shorter game than this, but it is quality over quantity. It is this, which is a great game, dialed up even more with stuff about this game that I love, improved upon and added to and iterated on in a way that I find very, very compelling. This feels so weird to say. I'm an FPS challenge run Souls-like guy, but my favorite game of the year is, of all the games I played, my favorite game of the year, sadly, was a game I did not stream, and it's Spider-Man Miles Morales. I know. Probably a surprise. A surprise to me as well. Surprise to me as well, but that's my game of the year. These two games I played in like December. Like, I only just started playing them at the beginning of the month because they were on sale, and Steam was like, give these a crack. I'm like, yeah, sure. Why not? Yeah, if it wasn't for these games, I wouldn't have done this show because I wouldn't have put anything in S tier, because I wasn't even thinking about Monster Hunter World. I forgot about this. I forgot about that how much I enjoyed this. And I'm like, without an S tier, why? I don't want to be like, yeah, 2024 was mostly mid. And it is. The B tier is overpopulated versus the other tiers for me. But these games made me like, you know what? I have S tier games. Let's do the show. If you like the Arkham games, whether you like Marvel or don't like Marvel or whatever, if you like the Arkham games and you specifically liked Arkham City, I really, really recommend, I could not recommend more, these two games. I haven't played Spider-Man 2 because it's not on PC yet. You can bet your bottom dollar, if it's anywhere near as good as these games, it's going to be a hot contender for finishing deep on my tier list for 2025. Holy shit, these games are real good. And guys, that's the show. That's it.